Camden City School District Advisory Board of Education's May 13th, 2025-2026 public hearing. It is 5:37 p.m. The meeting is now called to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Camden City School District Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published on January 10th, 2025 and May 11th, 2025, posted on the district website at www.camdencityschools.org, published on the board's designated online media outlet newspapers, the Courier Post, and the Philadelphia Inquirer, filed with the Camden City Clerk, and mailed to all persons. If any who have requested said notice, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and may be broadcast on local TV and the district's website at a future date. Roll call, please. Board Secretary.
Board Member Camacho. Present. Board Member Galashaw.
Present.
Board Member Garcia. Present. Board Member Hudson. Board Member Jackson. Present. Board Member Merricks.
Present.
Board Member Perez.
Present.
Board Vice President Alvarez.
Present.
Board President Nanandi Nelson.
Present.
You have quorum. At this time, we'll transition. I'll ask the board to transition down to the front row, and we will begin our budget hearing presentation. Thank you for joining us for our annual budget hearing. I want to begin by walking you through how this portion of the meeting will be structured. First, I'll provide a high-level overview of the proposed budget we submitted this month. Then, our school business administrator, Ms. Hakisha Taylor, will guide us through the 2025-26 budget, offering a more detailed breakdown of our financial plan. After both presentations, we will go into public comment portion of our meeting, and there are two lists for public comment. There will be one specifically for items related to the budget, and then the second list is for any other item that may have been covered. So again, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and thank you, Mr. Delgado, for your collaboration on that. And so, after both presentations, again, as I shared before, we'll go into the public comment portion to best answer any questions with responses following Ms. Taylor's presentation to ensure we address everything as thoroughly as possible. Once public comment concludes, we will then move into our closed session. So we know that tonight's conversation doesn't just involve numbers. It touches people, relationships, and the heart of our school community. We come together during a difficult time, one that feels deeply personal for many. I want to acknowledge the grief, the frustration, and the concern many of you are feeling this evening. This has been an incredibly challenging chapter for our district and for every staff member, student, and family affected. We see you, we hear you, and we do value you. And as we move into the next slide, just as a reminder of our district, before we begin, we want to make sure that we all are reminded of what grounds our work. The Camden City School District will provide learning environments where all students are valued, accepted, and prepared to positively impact their communities, their lives, the community, and the world. Our mission is not just a statement, it is our compass. Every conversation, especially the hard ones like tonight's, must be rooted in our commitment to our students and the future we want for them. These guiding principles have shaped the tough decisions we've had to make. They remind us to lead with care, to strive for excellence, and to remain transparent and accountable to our community, even when the path is hard. Next slide. And so followed by our mission statement, we also believe in the following guiding principles for budget decisions, and this is what was used as we had to make difficult decisions. One, pursuing long-term sustainability while remaining centered on students, and then trying to ground our decisions in data. As we navigate tough financial realities, we are making difficult but necessary decisions to secure the long-term stability of the Camden City School District. While we fully recognize that some of these changes will affect the classroom experience, our focus remains on doing what is necessary today to preserve the strength and the integrity of our schools for tomorrow. Every decision we make is guided by these principles. We are centering students even when the choices are painful. And sustainability goes beyond finances. It's about ensuring our schools continue to be places of learning, growth, and opportunity well into the future. Being data-driven means we're looking at the full picture: student needs, student enrollment, available resources, and outcomes to ensure our choices are thoughtful, equitable, and aligned with our commitment to students and families. So the next slide goes into how did we get here. Over the next few slides, I'll walk through how we arrived at a $91 million shortfall. This slide captures our largest financial challenge and is the basis of our significant and impactful budget for school year 25-26. If you take a look at this slide, experiencing budget shortfalls has been an ongoing challenge for our district. This is not new. In fact, I raised this issue during last year's annual report to the New Jersey Department of Education. This year, however, the shortfall has reached an historic high of $91 million. And while this isn't due to mismanagement, as evidenced by our growth, and while this is not due to mismanagement, as evidenced by our growth in CUSAC fiscal and the low number of audit findings. I inherited 27 audit findings, and we are down to 3. The reality is that we must take serious action to ensure the district's long-term stability, including a necessary reduction in force. ARP provided one-time funds that helped us stabilize during the pandemic. We used those funds to maintain staffing levels, to support learning recovery, to expand health and safety measures, and to avoid deeper cuts during a time of crisis. But ARP funds were never intended to be permanent. That funding ended this year, and we are now left with ongoing obligations, positions, programs, and supports, but without any continuing revenue to sustain them. This funding cliff adds more than $51.1 million to our current shortfall, our current structural shortfall, and makes a turning point where temporary relief must give way to long-term sustainability. In addition, we still do not know how much grant funding we will receive moving forward from the federal government for title funds, which adds another layer of uncertainty as we plan for the next school year. Because of this, we must begin operating within our actual recurring budget without relying on one-time or unpredictable sources of funding. Next slide, and this also helps to explain how we got here. If you take a look at this slide, you can clearly see how the shift in student enrollment directly impacts our budget. Over the last several years, spending on charter and Renaissance school tuition has increased dramatically, rising from $157 million in 2020-2021 to over $221 million projected for 24-25. This trend has accelerated to the point where it has created a structural imbalance in the district's budget. As more public funding follows students to charter and Renaissance schools, we are left maintaining facilities, staffing, and programming for fewer students in our district-run schools. This is not about blaming families for their choices. We understand and respect that families are doing what they believe is best for their children. But as a district, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the financial impact of this shift and to make necessary adjustments to ensure we can continue delivering for the students who are still in our care. Any sustainable plan for the Camden City School District must reflect these enrollment and funding realities. Our goal moving forward is to realign our resources in a way that is both fiscally responsible and maintains a student-centered approach. Next slide. One of the most significant and ongoing challenges we face is declining enrollment in our public district-operated schools. As the chart shows, our enrollment has dropped from over 11,600 students in 2013-2014 to a projected 5,904 in 2025-26, a reduction of more than 50% over the past decade. While the overall number of school-aged children in Camden has not decreased drastically, a growing number of families are choosing charter and Renaissance schools over our traditional schools. This trend, coupled with declining birth rates throughout the city, has had a direct and compounding impact on our budget. In New Jersey, funding follows the student, meaning that as more students enroll in charter and Renaissance schools, the associated funding follows them, reducing the revenue available to support district-run schools. The reality is we are operating a system built for almost twice as many students as we currently serve. That includes maintaining buildings, staffing levels, and programming for an enrollment base that simply no longer exists. This enrollment decline is not a new challenge. In fact, as I shared before, is something we've spoken about very publicly, including during the annual report to the state in March of last year. But we are now at a point where the financial consequences are unavoidable. The decisions we are discussing today are not just reactive. They are a necessary step toward right-sizing our system to reflect our current reality and stabilize the future of traditional public education in Camden. Next slide. So it's important to take a moment to highlight how we've used our resources strategically in recent years to better serve students. And many of these dollars came from the ARP ESSER funds. One major success has been the creation of our in-house transportation department. By launching our own bus fleet and hiring district bus drivers, we've increased reliability, cost efficiency, and safety for our students. We also implemented a co-teacher model in classrooms, which provided additional support and improved student outcomes, particularly for the students who have diverse learning needs. Through Teach Camden, we've invested in our community by supporting paraprofessionals in earning their teaching certificates to position them to teach in traditional classrooms in our schools. We are also encouraging them to obtain endorsements that would ensure they have the required credentials to fill some of our hard-to-fill positions, especially during a national teacher shortage. And finally, we worked hard to maintain steady staffing levels to provide consistency for our students, even as our enrollment declined. Next. So So that is what we face, but what do we do about it? And here is the action plan. So the next few slides will highlight key elements of our proposed action plan, steps we've taken not only to balance this year's budget, that $91 million deficit, but also to support the long-term sustainability of our district. As I said before, these decisions are difficult, but they reflect our commitment to using our resources in the most responsible manner that we can, while continuing to center students in every choice we make. Next slide. So as we prepare for the 2025-26 school year, we are navigating one of the most difficult transitions in recent memory, particularly in our district when it comes to staffing. Our overall staffing is projected to decrease from 1,618.5 full-time equivalents this school year to 1,331.5 next school year. That is a reduction of 287 FTEs across the district. Those are position reductions. When it comes to people impact, which is what we're all most concerned about, 113 of those 287 positions that were cut mean that those individuals directly are impacted by the fact that they will not have employment with the district effective June 30th. And again, of those 113 people who are affected, who are deeply affected by this reduction, 32 of those individuals are central office staff, about 16% of that team. 77 of those individuals impacted are school-based or non-central office positions, making up roughly 6%, and 4 part-time roles, which make up 27% of our part-time staff. We were able to minimize just some of the impact. 34 staff members were placed into other available roles. 4 individuals were not renewed due to performance, and that had nothing to do with the reduction. And 97 vacancies were eliminated to avoid filling positions we could not sustainably fund. We approached this process with care, prioritizing the protection of classrooms and student-facing services wherever possible. Still, we know these numbers represent people. There are colleagues, there are mentors, there are friends, there are family members who have made meaningful contributions to our schools. This is not a moment we take lightly. These decisions were driven by the need to stabilize our long-term finances while continuing to center students in every choice we make. Next slide. So due to a significant budget shortfall, Morgan Village Middle School will no longer operate as a standalone middle school. This decision is part of a broader strategy to realign resources, reduce costs, and move toward a more sustainable school model. Middle school students will transition to one of our existing pre-K through 8th grade family schools, where they will continue receiving a high-quality education. Those schools that will receive the students from Morgan Village are Caddo, Coopers Point, Davis, Dudley, H.B. Wilson, Vets, Forest Hill, which will be expanding to serve grades 6 through 8, and Yorkshire, which will be expanding to serve grades 6 through 8. We understand this is a major shift for the Morgan Village community. That's why we're developing a detailed transition plan, which includes staffing, scheduling, transportation, and direct communication with families. We will be working with families one-on-one, that's already started, to ensure thoughtful placements and appropriate support for every student. Some staff will be reassigned with the support of our DTLR team. While these changes are difficult, our focus remains on doing what's best for students while being fiscally responsible and ensuring long-term sustainability for the district. Next slide, please. Also, as a part of our overall restructuring plan, we are relocating Rise Academy to the Morgan Village building, which will now serve as the home for both Rise and Star Academy. This transition creates a unified 7th through 12th grade alternative education campus designed to better support students who thrive in smaller, specialized settings. Co-locating both programs in one building allows us to maximize the use of district facilities. It allows us to consolidate operational costs and provide targeted academic and social-emotional support to students in one centralized space. This move will result in meaningful cost savings while continuing to meet the needs of our alternative education students. We will work closely with the current Rise and Star Academy leadership teams to ensure a smooth transition with alignment around school culture, supports, and structure. Ultimately, this plan strengthens our commitment to alternative pathways while being fiscally responsible and responsive to the needs of our students. Next slide. This slide outlines the leadership restructuring taking place across the Camden High campus, which includes Camden High, Creative Arts, Big Picture, and Brim Medical Arts. In our current model, each of the 4 schools has a dedicated principal along with 1 or more lead educators. Moving forward, we are transitioning to a unified campus leadership structure. The entire Camden High campus will be overseen by 1 principal and 4 lead educators. Each school program will continue to have lead educators in place to provide day-to-day instructional and operational support. The new structure will look like this: 1 principal over the entire campus, 4 lead educators total across Camden High, Creative Arts, Big Picture, and Brim. This change results in cost savings, but more importantly, it aligns with our goal of streamlining leadership while still providing the necessary oversight and support at the program level. We are confident this model will allow us to maintain high standards for teaching and learning across the campus, while also contributing to the long-term sustainability of the district. We will work closely with campus staff to ensure a smooth transition, including clear role responsibilities, collaboration structures, and consistent communication. Next slide. In addition, the additional proposed actions that were taken to address the deficit are on the screen. We've reduced contracted services. We reduced vacant positions. We reduced overtime expenses. We have changes in use of title funding, and we have are re-examining building usage fees. And so at this point, I'm going to turn the remainder of the budget presentation over to our school business administrator, Ms. Hakisha Taylor, who will walk through, as I shared before, some more detailed elements of the budget presentation. Thank you for your continued focus, continued patience, and for being here.
Good evening. So understanding the budget development as early as the middle of September 2024, the executive leadership team began discussing the 25-26 budget. Next slide. These are fund source definitions. Tax levy, which is the amount of revenue raised through property taxes to support Camden City School District. State aid, which actually represents 90% of our funding sources. They are funds received directly from the state, which are predicated on enrollment and a district's socioeconomic status. Fund balance, which will become very important as we move through these slides, which is surplus funds or money left over from a previous year or a previous budget. Capital reserve, are surplus funds from prior year budgets that are earmarked or set aside for capital improvements. Extraordinary aid, that's state aid for special education costs that exceed $40,000 per year per student and $55,000 per year per student for private school. And then SEMI, or Special Education Medicare Initiative Aid, federal aid for services provided to special education students eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. Next slide, please. This is a budgeted fund balance graph. You will see from years 2008 and 2009 through 2025, 2026. As I mentioned in the previous slide, fund balance are surplus funds left over from previous budgets. What we highlight here is the peak that you see in the current fiscal year, 2024-2025. And it's the use of $51.1 million in budgeted fund balance, which were actually unused ARP-ESSER funding. 2008, 2009, it was below 10 million, and these were budgeted fund balances used each year to complement or balance the budget. So as you can see from this graph, Camden City School District is not accustomed to spending or using $51.1 million in budgeted fund balance, highlighting that this was a source that was not common or normal. They were ARP-ESSER COVID fundings that were unused at year end, June 30, 2024. Next slide, please. How did we address the $91 million shortfall? So Superintendent talked about how we got here. How did we address the $91 million shortfall? As you know, $20.9 million was an increase in state aid. We also had budgeted fund balance use of $13 million. We increased our estimate of extraordinary aid. We increased additional revenues, so capital reserves and maintenance reserves. We reduced personnel by 26%, I think that says. The tax levy increase for 25-26 is a 5% tax increase of $780,000. Next slide, please. Here is a comparison of 2024-2025 versus 2025-2026 revenues for the general fund. As you can see, there's an increase in state aid. The state aid funds include extraordinary aid and non-public transportation, and that's the 24 million versus the 20.9 million I mentioned on the previous slide. Next slide, please. Here is a state aid breakdown, year over year, 2024, 2025, or the current year, versus what we're projecting for 2025, 2026. Again, there's an overall state aid increase of $20.9 million, or 6%. Next slide, please. The general fund appropriations for 2025-2026 are outlined in this pie chart. School-based budgets are around $71 million. General current expenditures, so that's regular instruction, etc., $117 million. Adult education is around $121,000. Capital outlay or capital reserve projects are $3 million. Renaissance and charter schools tuitions are our largest expenditures. You'll see Renaissance schools at $163 million for 25-26, and charter schools at $63.6 million. And I'll take a moment here to say, as we trudged through this challenging budget process, one of the things we did was we pleaded with the county in order to project lower amounts based on historic trends for charter schools. So that is one of the levers that we used to balance the budget and was approved by the county. Next slide, please. This This pictorial shows you tax levy history from 2008 through 2026. The taxpayer investment in Camden City School District, you may notice, has remained flat, or was flat, from 2008, 2009 through 2018, 2019. And in fact, years before 2008, 2009, I believe the taxpayer investment remained at $7.5 million for about 13 years. Next slide, please. And this is an overlay. So at the bottom, you'll see our tax levy, which it was around $7.5 million for 13 years or so. So you'll see that at the bottom of this graph. And you will also see it overlaid with our charter school and Renaissance tuition growth, which has skyrocketed. Our charter school and tuition has grown 170% over 13 years, while our state aid has increased around 70%. Next slide, please. Here we show what a 5% tax levy will cost the Camden City homeowner. Rateable base and average assessed home values reported on this slide were reported by the Camden City Office of Assessments and Camden City Business Administrator on 4/7 and 4/10 respectively. The average assessed home value is $57,700. The annual tax increase based on this proposed budget is an increase of $34.65 per year for the average assessed home value of $57,700. Next slide, please. And this is our final slide, which highlights our total budget for the 25-26 school year. It's a budget of $472,028,430, which is made up of $417,768,659 in general fund and special revenue fund of $54,259,771. I would highlight that BAs were guided to budget more conservatively for special revenue federal funds for the 25-26 school year than we normally budget due to the change in the federal administration. So while we normally would budget at 80% of the current year's federal awards, we budgeted and were directed to budget at 70% of the current year's federal awards, further reducing our revenue sources for the 25-26 school year. And with that, I will turn it back over to the superintendent. The board may have transitioned back to the dais. That concludes our budget presentation. Ms. Beeman or Ms. Yera, if you could share the public comment list with us, we'll be, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Board Secretary. At this time, we will prepare to go into the public comment session, and I'll turn it over to our Acting General Counsel to guide us through how we're going to govern that portion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening. The Camden City School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to present your comments to the board and the state district superintendent. This first section is going to be just comments related to the 2025-2026 budget. We will then have a second public comment session towards the end of the meeting where you can present your comments regarding anything else on the agenda. Each person who signed up to comment will have 3 minutes to speak. You will be notified when your 3 minutes are up and you cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please state your name and address for the record, and please address your comments to the State District Superintendent or myself. Please be courteous to your fellow community members and keep your comments within the time allotted so that everyone has the opportunity to speak tonight. At the end of the 3 minutes, the microphone will be silenced and your comments will have concluded. Please conduct yourself in a respectful manner. The First Amendment is not absolute, and the board can prohibit language that is inappropriate in accordance with Board Policy 1121. We may interrupt, warn, or terminate your statement, question, or inquiry when it is too lengthy. If a member of the public speaks about a staff member, interruption may be necessary to caution the speaker of the danger of slander. For anyone whose comments or actions harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety of any person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. We may request that any person leave the meeting when that person does not observe a reasonable decorum. We may request the assistance of law enforcement officers in the removal of a disorderly person when that person prevents or disrupts a meeting with an act that obstructs or interferes with a meeting. We may call for a recess or an adjournment to another time when the lack of public decorum interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. And finally, we may waive any of the rules when necessary for the protection of privacy or to maintain an orderly operation of the board meeting. After the public comment period is closed, the State District Superintendent or her designee will address your questions to the extent provided by the law. All right, so first up we have Woodrow Womack.
Good evening, Board, Madam Superintendent. So my question is, and to get this right, you're going to give me another chance to talk about the other things not budget related? So I'm on both lists? Okay. So regarding the budget, I saw that we had a $472 million fund, but I didn't see anything about expenditures. So I'm trying to see where this gap is. No gap? Okay.
We will address all of your questions and comments at the end of
Awesome.
at the end of everyone.
Okay. And also, when I was looking over the budget, it looks to me that the operating budget for 2024 actual was $439 million. And then for next year, 2025, estimated was $417 million, and I'm rounding these. But then when you look at the expenditures for this year, we're at $508 million. So again, I'm still looking for that $90 million gap. And also on top of that, if you look at for next year, you know, general fund versus expenditures, it's like $417 million to $470 million. So we're still operating at a shortfall, which in my logic, that means you're gonna cut people again. So just help me to make sense of it. Thank you.
All right, up next is Kevin Walters, and after him will be Carmela DeToma. Yes, this section is just going to be related to the budget.
How can you limit the public to what we can speak on?
So we're going to, if you have something to say, we're going to have a second public comment session towards the end where it's going to be anything related to anything on the agenda. Right. You can do whatever you want. If you want to speak now, you go ahead.
So, okay, good evening, everyone. So, here's the thing. Fraud is really a terrible word to use, right? But this board has been fraudulent in its operation. And here's what I'm saying. You are scapegoating the charter schools when you let them in. you opened the door for the charter schools. Now, some of you may not have been a part of that from the time. So, but you know, like everything, you get blamed because it drips down. All right, so you are complicit as well. What are you going to do to make sure that there's a moratorium on any further charter schools in the city? Right, because as far as the state of New Jersey goes, the schools in New Jersey are great, but they are only great in the cities where there are no charters. So charters have never been the answer, but you all let them in, not you specifically, but you complicitly, because you have not voiced your opinion or any sort of recommendations for what to do next. So that's where the fraud comes in. Yes, staff have been cut, but you knew that also. This position right now was before COVID. You have kicked the can down the road in terms of the finances. All right? So what are you going to do as a school board to make sure this stays a regular traditional public high school? What are you going to do to make sure that the East Side School, when it's finally built, those buildings are sold to the charter network? What are you going to do? And you got to do it now, because 15 years before the charters were allowed to come here, someone told us they were coming. Dr. Walter Farrell told us they were coming. And you let Rehanaford come in here, and as much as I love you, Superintendent McCombs, you were part of that, allowing Rehanaford to gut us. But I love you. But hard criticism, you can take. That's what happened here in the city of Camden. Look around. Cherry Hill is close to us. They don't have any charter schools. They don't have any charter schools. So, what are you going to do? Now, Superintendent McCombs, you're on your way out. I am also in retirement, thank you, Lord. What are you going to make sure happens when you leave so that whoever's still here working will still have a job and charters are going? Because charters, you have an opportunity now to not allow another charter school to be built in this city to continue to rob us of funds. That's your job.
All right, up next is Carmela DeToma and then Jose Delgado.
Good evening to our superintendent and to the board. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak. I teach English at Eastside High School. I'm a very proud teacher there, and I'm really proud of our school. This year especially, even with all the changes and having to relocate, our staff really came together, and I have to say, I think I saw miracles every day. But it was not by accident. It's because all of the services, the teachers, obviously the faculty, student-based, climate and culture, all of the groups that touch our students individually come together. I'm happy to know that our test scores have come up. I work really hard for that. But thank you, Dean Avent, for the times when I had students who were having a bad day. And I would say, Dean Avent, help me out. He would pull a student out, have a really good conversation with them, and I always said, send them back in when they're ready. And he'd bring them back in. Now, that wouldn't have happened. I would have had a continued disruptive class, and no learning would have taken place. So when I tell you it's a village, I mean it. Now I'm going to back off and thank you to our student-based who have been angels on earth to our beautiful children who need them all the time. Now, I come from Florida, and I'm going to be real personal here. I left Florida because I watched over 30 years the destruction of our public schools down there. In a state that was growing by leaps and bounds, our public schools were decaying. and it was by no accident. It was politically intentional to destroy the public schools. And they did it in a very insidious way. I don't mean to name politicians, but I was involved in politics there as well as working with the teachers union, and I was a product of public schools myself. And when I went to my high school, it was one of the best. And then it slowly creeped down. This is how they did it. They started, first of all, by allowing charter schools in. And it was the beginning of the end of Florida's public schools. I came up here after fighting the good fight and losing. I admitted defeat. And my family, we came up here so that I could teach in a state that valued teachers and valued education. I expect you guys to be very wise about what is happening. We begged our school districts down there to go to Tallahassee, which was our state capital, and fight for the public schools and stop the encroaching charter schools where teachers did not have to be certified, where they didn't have to take the tests that our students had to take, that were made especially hard to make public schools look weak and to make public school educators look incompetent.
Up next is Mr. Delgado, and after him will be Krista Varga.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I wasn't going to say this, but I think it's important. Anyone who tries to put the blame of what's happening in this district on the superintendent is not only missing the target, they're shooting in the opposite direction that they should be. We are here, as many of us anticipated in 2013, we would be in this position. I said it at the last board meeting when there was a real Board of Education. A governor, a Republican governor, and the boss in South Jersey, George Norcross, created the situation. They put together a portfolio management plan. A portfolio management plan basically said that the school district would be removed as the manager of education of the children, and that it would be taken over by other people, and the district would just become another provider. Now, how did this happen? A governor, a Republican governor, a Democratic political boss, state and city politicians, some of them who are still in office, not only didn't protest, they also enabled the public schools to be taken over. Some of them are still in office. And the other thing is that the state, the issue is not education. That's the excuse that they used. Oh, the test scores. They were after the money. It's like everything else in life, believe me. It's hard for me to say this, they're after the money. Now, they control over 50% of the money that comes into the district based on enrollment. Getting up here and blaming directly or indirectly the board is wrong. The advisory, they have no power whatsoever. That's another symptom of the state takeover. They take away control of the school by appointing an advisory board. They have absolutely no power. They only have one thing to do, produce 2 reports a year. They've never done that. So I hope that all of us begin to realize that what's happening here affects children also. Let's talk about the children who don't speak English in this district. They're the most unrepresented children in this district. Many of them do not get the services they should be receiving. We're cutting 13% of instructional monies. The bilingual program is getting a 48% cut. So as usually happens, a lot of people that don't speak up, a lot of people, we have supposedly representation on this advisory board. I have never heard them say one word at a meeting. I love a lot of them. I know some of them, but they've never spoken up. And that's what's
All right, thank
wrong
you,
with our
Mr.
students.
Delgado. Up next is Krista Varga, then it will be Keith Benson, then Karen Borelli-Luke.
Good evening. My name is Krista Varga, and I'm a proud certified school nurse at Eastside High School, formerly Woodrow Wilson High School. Eastside High School is truly a bilingual high school, welcoming 101 new students from out of the country this year alone, and that's so far. It's still only mid-May, and all require extra support. Each bilingual student represents additional resources and additional time that it takes to translate and assist each family in every aspect of their school success. Eastside High School found its groove this year as we transitioned into a swing space at Alfred Kramer School during the demolition of our old high school and the construction of a $105 million replacement building. Despite classes being held in trailers in the parking lot and buses back and forth to the Kroc Center and the North Camden Community Center for physical education classes, the students and staff have rallied and have persevered. Through the challenges and the changes, we grew closer as a school. We've achieved improved attendance grade across the grades, improved test scores, improved immunization compliance, reduced medical exclusions for missing immunizations and physical exams, and generally improved the culture and climate that you can feel in the hallways, classrooms, and throughout the school. This will all shift with the removal of key staff members at Eastside High School. Our Family Operations Coordinator, Mr. Rodriguez, our School-Based Youth Director, Ms. Moore, our Lead Educator, Mr. Mercado, our Dean Brown and Dean Avent, our Operations Manager, Ms. Young, a few of the teachers, and Eastside High School's second nurse. These team members at Eastside High School who help make it happen for the staff and students every day. They're pivotal in creating a safe and supportive and caring environment for our students to thrive, to come to school, and to stay in school. The roles affect the metrics of student and staff safety, security incidents, attendance rates, graduation rates, test scores, health outcomes, immunization compliance, mental health and crisis support, and connections with families and the community resources to support them. This is a budget meeting, so I'll switch from the qualitative data to the quantitative metrics. Eastside High School currently has 2 full-time school nurses to support our staff and students. Next year, it's proposed that Eastside High will have 1 nurse, and 1 nurse will be pulled to another school. District-wide, 7.5 positions have been eliminated for the 25-26 school year, so there will be no coverage. That means that a nurse cannot cover field trips, cannot cover each other's absences, parents will have to pick up their child from school, or 911 will need to be called when the nurse is out of the building. And for Eastside High, that means a nurse will not be in the building when the nurse needs to travel with a medically fragile student to off-site physical education classes. How many positions were eliminated in Camden's charter and Renaissance schools?
Up next is Keith Benson, and then Miss Karen Borelli-Luke.
Good evening. I want to first start off saying, Brother Nelson, Brother Gallishaw, I have enormous respect for y'all. So that being said, I want to go forward. This superintendent is one of the most dishonest people I've ever met in my life. If y'all heard that presentation, you'll hear why it was a bunch of lies and nonsense, and we'll get to it. I was recently the president of the Camden Education Association from 2017 to 2024, and for years I and many others have been trying to spread the word on how awful the former superintendent was, along with Camden enrollment in the system that he brought in 2015. I would have hoped that things would improve since his departure, but they haven't, because Camden enrollment has been permitted to stop students from enrolling in our schools. Despite repeatedly, over 7 years, I and many others pointed out to this superintendent what Camden enrollment was doing to our schools, with documented corroboration from building principals. I showed how Camden enrollment stopped students from enrolling in our schools, which cost our district thousands of students and tens of millions of dollars over the years. And this superintendent did nothing to stop it, nothing to stop the clear threat to our district she leads, and it never made sense to me or many others until this. How many of you, board members, educators, and community, knew that our superintendent was a sitting board member for Camden enrollment from 2018 to 2020? How many of you knew that our superintendent from there served as president of Camden enrollment from 2021 to 2024, the organization that cost us thousands of students and millions of dollars, all while she, in public, bemoans the loss of students and millions of dollars in annual funding as if she has no idea why? How many of you knew the superintendent's husband was on the board of Cooper Landing Square Renaissance Schools Facility, Inc. from 2016 to 2018, and then in 2021, our superintendent sold Hatch to Kip Cooper Norcross for $1.6 million, supposedly to pay for bleachers. And here's why a transaction was so crazy, if not outright corrupt. She sold our public school building to Kip Norcross, where her husband was a board member for 3 years, for a single $1.6 million payment, a transaction that cost this district hundreds of students and nearly $14 million a year, each and every year. So after all these years, and after all the school closures, and after all the layoffs that have been announced, I asked myself, though I think I already know the answer, who has a superintendent really been working for all this time? So surely she hasn't done a thing, as far as I can tell, to protect our enrollment. In fact, she worked with the entity that cost a student while publicly, at least, complaining about losing students. She surely hasn't done a thing, as far as I can tell, to protect our budget. In fact, she worked with the entity that worsened our budget situation every single year while publicly complaining about the deficit.
Thank you. Up next is Miss Karen Borelli-Luke. All right, up next is Miss Luke. Sir, your time is up. Thank you. After Miss Luke will be Michelle Nelson.
Good evening. Karen Borelli-Luke, CEA. 41 years in education. I thought I'd seen everything. This, I cannot say I am surprised. After sitting in negotiations, there were red flags. Anytime we raised red flags, we were told that you would figure it out. Well, we definitely can see the way you figured it out. To cut jobs and positions that impact our students' instruction and safety. I know to ask for these jobs to be brought back would be outlandish. No one can expect you to pull $90 million out of thin air. But I believe that there are some positions that do not have direct impact on student instruction and safety. When I first came to the district in the 80s, when we had 3 times and 4 times the number of students and schools, we had 3 times less the administrative staff downtown in the superintendent's office. We need to see a reduction in those positions that are not directly impacting students and instruction and safety. Security, teachers, clerks, attendance officers, family operation coordinators, nurses, they directly impact students' instruction and safety. Maybe if you had some more careful in your planning, Eastside could have been placed at Morgan Village, which was built as a high school. Rise Academy could have went to Kramer. Once again, not thinking, just acting without planning effectively. We need to do better. Our students deserve better. Thank you.
Up next is Michelle Nelson, and then Vida Neal, and then Jessica Menino.
All right, good evening. So I am a parent to a 4th grader at HB Wilson who had hope in the success of the Camden City school system. I am also a member of the Parent Advisory Committee at my daughter's school. My questions to you are, what systems will be in place to bridge the gap between family, community, and education? With all of the supportive staffs being cut, what will be in place to manage in-house conflicts, classroom behaviors, and family crisis or emergency support? We have the beautiful option of having a school choice in the city. Some of the questions I asked when enrolling my child into HB Wilson were, what do you do to manage teacher burnout? And how do you manage and handle behaviors? I asked that question for obvious reasons: students' distractions, academic decline, teacher burnout, students being behind in lessons and ultimately behind academically, which is one of the things that her father and I are trying to prevent. We're now deciding if it's worth leaving her in the school system or allowing her to go somewhere else, and it wouldn't be the Renaissance schools in the city. We're losing hope.
Up next is Vida Neal, then Jessica Menino, and then Gary Frazier.
Good afternoon, Vida Neal. You know, for the most part, I spent the last 8 years being an information portal for this community, telling you people what was coming. I watched parents go to the basketball game over there and not even have two sit over here. I want to ask you something. Is the union here? Shout out. I said, is the union here? Shout out. If you think we're going to sit back and take this shortfall, that's Camden's history. I went to school when the teachers struck. They struck in my school year. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to come together as a community, and we're going to go to Trenton, who made this mess, and get the bag of money. See, first of all, you can sit up here and blame Katrina McCone and these individuals up here, but they're not the people that's instituting all of this. She is a state superintendent. It was the state of New Jersey that tried to put these Renaissance schools in 5 Afro-American communities. And we were the only idiots that accepted them. Now we're going to take the same idiots that help them come here and help get rid of them. 55% of our budget goes to the Renaissance schools. Well, since the state wanted them to come here, let them pay for them. Let them pay for them. Our community is failing in education all the way around. Every school in the city is failing your children. Your children cannot read and write. Give them a book. Tell them to read it. Everyone has failed the children. The community, the parents, the teachers, and the employees. Everyone has failed our children. There is no supportive services here. I mean, we got the president of the school board sitting here saying that he does stuff in the parks for her kids. He was given $750K. And guess what? Our park ain't even open. But he can be on Facebook with a Rolex telling us we ain't on his time. We ain't on his time. What we need is a federal investigation of all Title I money, of all federally funded programs, and all these people that sit up here on this stage. We coming to get you. Because in order to get the bag, we got to get you.
All right, up next is Jessica Menino and then Gary Frazier.
That's right.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica. I'm the FOC from HB Wilson, and behind me are my fellow FOCs from schools throughout the district. Although the decision has been made regarding our position, the needs our roles met will not go away. We need to start shifting our conversation and attention towards the students and families in the Camden community. Some of us lost our jobs, our ability to pay our bills, provide for our children and families, and exercise our passion for helping people. But that conversation is not for right now. Right now, I want to take the time with my fellow family and operations coordinators by my side to emphasize in front of the school board and community how every single family who has a young person attending the Camden City School District is losing too. Who will be, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Who will be readily available to support with these resources, to lend a listening ear when the world seems too much, and come with solutions and a plan of action to get things done together? Who will bridge the gap between school administration and the families? Who will speak up for families who are not in the rooms where decisions are being made on their behalf? Who will listen to the needs of our families and facilitate parent academic workshops, keeping them informed and feeling confident in supporting their child's education? Who will give up their lunch each and every day to sit with a group of students during their lunch period because they're struggling and they need a safe place to land, even if it's just for 45 minutes? Who will be consistent, smiling face, waiting with open arms each morning, as we all, every single morning, no matter what happened the day before? Who is going to be readily available and willing to use their own money to get our family food, household supplies, or clothing for families who are in need? Each one of us standing up here, that's this whole team, and the ones that can't be here, we do that every single day.
That's right.
Student and family support services within schools are not a luxury, they are necessary tools for success.
Every FOC standing up here with me will, and those who are not with us tonight, exercise every ounce of effort for the next couple weeks of our contract, making sure families, students, and staff know how much we care for them, how much we believe in their resiliency and ability to come out on the other side of this exactly who we know and they know they can be. There's no strings attached for us, nothing to gain, simply because we care about the importance of continued mutual respect and love for the families we pour our hearts and soul into every day.
Amen.
All right, up next is Mr. Frazier, and then the rest, it was unclear about whether you wanted to speak about the budget, so Christine Schneider, is she here? Okay, if you want to speak about the budget, you'll be up next.
So I want to get this straight before I start. We're going to have a second time to come back during the public portion? Or is this it right here?
What's that?
So is this part here and part of the budget, and then we have the public portion?
Correct.
Cool.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Well, good evening, Superintendent and those members of the board. 10 years of dealing with this fight here in our city for our children's education. And I remember not long ago in 2013 when we were fighting for Landon Square, and all of a sudden the Urban Hope Act came into fruition. Now, Superintendent, you may not have been here during that time, but you certainly came in during the tail end of it after everything was already implemented and put in place by Donald Norcross. Here we are today in 2025, and we're sitting here talking about a shortfall of $91 million, Superintendent. You've been the person in charge, state appointed. See, the problem I have with this whole entire thing is that the state's we've been under state control for the last 13 years. We fought for you guys to have an elected school board. You wouldn't have it no other way had we not sued this district for the right for us to have that elected school board. And we feel that this school board has not done its due diligence. It starts at the top. We know that politics have been played, the shifting of seats because of sexual misconduct, the amount of money that you have received, Namdi, $750,000. We're talking about a deficit. We're talking about, what about some of your pay rate, your pay scales here that sit on this board or work in administration? You guys saying you're putting students first. How? I remember when we had one enrollment and we had Choice for Better Schools, Superintendent. Remember that? Remember when they launched a whole campaign that you said our children simply wanted to go to charter and Renaissance schools? How was that possible when you guys orchestrated the Urban Hope Act, put it in place, and then put a whole team together? Namdi, you were a part of it. While we forged Save Camden Public Schools, you guys launched Choice for Better Schools. As quick as we were trying to save our schools, you were taking our children out of schools. That's the real truth. When you talk about the per pupil spending that we hear here today, you guys are 46% over the state average. But I'll get into that later as I address this board. Bottom line is, Superintendent, what do you intend to do? Because, I mean, obviously it's over for you now. You're going to go sit in a higher position in the state. How will you delegate for where you are sitting at here for us in Camden as it relates to our students? You say you're not giving up on our students? You say you have a plan for them? Then show us, because right now, I do not see a plan for our children forward. There is no plan. You guys, you know what? The same plan you guys are implementing right here, it's right on AI. You guys are not doing your due diligence by us. A moratorium needs to come on these charter schools. A forensic audit needs to come to this entire school district. And that's who we're going to turn our attention to. I'll be back to really get you in the public portion.
All right, Ms. Schneider.
There is a white Kia SUV in the handicap license plate that is blocking someone who is trying to depart. Again, a white Kia SUV, handicap license plate. Thank you.
Before you start, after you is Ms. Reed, Nairi Reed.
Good evening, board members. My name is Christine Schneider, and I am a second grade teacher at Forest Hill Elementary School. I would like to address the board regarding my position being eliminated this upcoming school year due to the budget deficit. I would first like to say I love working at Forest Hill. Receiving notice that my position was being eliminated was a huge shock to me. I put 100% effort, dedication, and commitment into my job each and every day. To say I'm upset is an understatement. I love my kids, and I love my work family. I'm a teacher who is working for all the right reasons. Seeing my students succeed and creating a safe, warm, and engaging learning environment is and has always been my top priority. Camden's enrollment has decreased throughout the years. I'm a firm believer that when parents and students feel safe, satisfied, and happy, they would stay in the district rather than enrolling in a charter or Renaissance school. Having the right staff in place helps keep families here. It is my opinion that the district should look at merit as well as seniority of staff when looking at eliminating staff. I don't think you understand the full impact that this has on the future of our district. Eliminating positions in our district is a disservice to our students and families that we serve and support. I simply don't understand how we can let a budget get this far in the deficit. I really appreciate you taking this time to listen to my opinions and my feelings. Thank you.
Ms. Reed? I'm right here. Okay. And after Ms. Reed is Josephine Barr.
Good evening, everyone. It saddens me to come to this microphone and speak, but I'm here, okay? I come with different reasons. I'm an FOC at Brim School. I love my school. My babies that have been with me have came from Head Start. In fact, this whole campus pretty much came from Head Start. And I'm a Head Start employee of 20 years. So these are my babies, okay? Every day we deal with obstacles that these babies bring to us. And the only question I have is who's gonna sit in this office and listen to these babies' obstacles? I have 2 children right now. One mom died in December. Another mom died at 10. The 10-year-old that lost their mom still goes through issues. Who's going to come and deal with that child when they have a bad day? When I told them, pardon my French, they said the F word. Miss Reed, who's going to care for us? I can't give them that answer because I'm not going to be here. So I want to know if some of y'all are going to give them that answer. If some of y'all are going to come out of y'all offices and come work with the kids. Some of the people that you chose to keep here in these big positions, are they going to come and sit in the FOC chair? I just want to know. I need to know before June 30th. I need to know. I need to know that when I leave my Head Start babies that they're going to be good. And I don't know right now. I don't trust none of y'all. None of you. I don't care how you look. I don't trust you. And I don't trust that you're putting our kids first. It's false advertisement. Even when I worked at Head Start, when they would have me out there hitting that pavement to get them kids in there, they would say, we provide transportation. Okay, but the buses are breaking down. Parents are missing work to get to school. I meant to get their kids. Parents are missing work because the kids can't get picked up from the bus because it's broke down. It reminds me of this program. You're saying students first, but how are we putting the students first? I need to know. That's the topic of my thing. I need to know by June 30th. I need to know. Whoever is still here making all this money, who's going to come and help these kids out? Our high school babies are suffering. Who's going to come and help these babies out? Another thing, on May 24th, we were having a big event. A paint and sit Mother's Day event where we had superintendent as our special guest. And it was going to be all the high schools. Unfortunately, I got to say it's been canceled because FOCs are too emotional to give their all into an event. We're trying to sit up here and figure out how our babies are going to make it when we leave. So on June 30th, I need to know by email or something. I need to know.
All right, up next is Josephine Barr, and then Elizabeth Rodriguez.
Good evening. My name is Josephine Parr, and I am a JAG specialist at Eastside High, and I've been teaching at Camden for 27 years. I just want to share a little story with you. One bitter cold night in January, I was taking my 12-year-old daughter and her friend to the mall. I walk in the mall and I see one of my favorite students who's in the special needs class. And he's walking by me and I said, "Hi, Brayden," and I gave him a hug. I didn't mean to say his name, but and he said, "Ms. Parr, can you please give me $2 to get something to eat?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "But why are you carrying this bag?" And I noticed it was a hospital bag. I'm saying way too much because I should have said his name. I apologize. But he was hospitalized for an emergency, a crisis. They let him go, and they told him to go to the mall for a warming spot. That mall closed at 9 o'clock. Where was that baby going to go after 9 o'clock? I called my principal, and she called Mr. Rodriguez, who was our FOC. And Mr. Rodriguez met me at the police station. Mr. Rodriguez met me at that police station in 20 minutes. Took him to the shelter. The shelter put people out at 7 in the morning in the bitter cold. Who showed up to pick that baby up? Mr. Rodriguez was there at 7:15 in the morning and took him to his other job that he was working on Saturday morning with the other kids he was working with and held him there with him until he could take them back to the shelter. And Mr. Rodriguez, our FOC, and Eastside High has been working feverishly to get him in and out of different shelters that keep putting this baby out.
And no leadership help. How about that?
Also, Dean Avent, I called Dean Avent that night, and he gave me support. He talked to the student, he talked to the young man, and he came in the next day and bought him some sneakers out of his own pocket. There was no money in the supply. There was no money in our office to provide for our kids. So what I want to say is, I was supposed to talk about JAG, but I just had to tell that story. But who is going to be there for our kids when we don't have JAG? JAG is Jobs for America's grads. Our kids need support. Who's going to be there when the FOCs are gone? Who is going to support our kids? Our kids are capable. Our kids deserve love. They deserve support. And when you take these programs away, who is going to do that? I'm holding these books right here published by my students. They are capable of learning. They're not getting the writing they need. They're not getting the support. They're not getting the
All right, thank you. Your time is up. Ms. Rodriguez, you are up next.
My name is Elizabeth W. Rodriguez. I'm the FOC at Cattle School. I work as a community school coordinator when we were making less than $29,000 for over 10 years. And my question is this: why are we wasting ink, paper, or your saliva saying we're putting students first? Who is putting students first? Who? You're letting go of the behavior specialists, climate and culture, FOC. What's going to happen next year when parents need to eat? They need places where to live because they have been put out of their homes. Their electricity has been shut off, and we go crazy amongst each other. FOCs calling each other, hey, I need $300. Who has clothing? Who has this? Who has that? When children die, we have called amongst each other, oh my God, this family, they don't have for the funeral expenses. We all go crazy, and we go and we make it work somehow. And who's putting students first? Wait a minute, now we're making a lot more money, yes, but how about the 10 years I put in when I was making less than $29,000? I feel in my heart, I'm putting the students first. So who is putting the students first now when behavior specialists, climate and culture, attendance officers that knock on doors? Where are the students making sure? Because you know why? DCPMP, they don't want to knock on doors anymore for a few years. Since COVID, they said, oh no, because of attendance, we don't knock on doors. So how are we going to go to that home, make sure that that child is doing well? Attendance officers, FOC, come on, I got your back. We knock on the door, we go anywhere, north, south, Camden, anywhere. We put our lives on the line for these people, for the community. And who are the future? Our students. Who's putting them first? They're not right now, because trust me, you explained that there's millions of dollars being lost to charter schools. A lot more billions and a lot more students are going to be gone. If I have a child right now, you think I'm going to want to take my child to a public school when you're not going to have attendance officers, behavior specialists, climate and culture? I'm going to be afraid of taking my child because they're not going to have resources. They're not going to have resources when they're pulling each other's hairs, they're kicking them on the floor. Where are the behavior specialists? They run, we all run together. That's right. Yeah, so what's going to happen? All this money being gone, where are the millions of dollars of people that are making $180,000, $200,000? Let them go. Let those go, and you're going to have a lot more millions. You want to find the money? Find it. It is there. Those positions that they're not needed. The ones that do not go home and knock on doors. The ones that are not up in the middle of the night. Find
All right, thank you. Ms. Dickerson, I'm not sure if you want to comment about the budget. Is she here? Oh.
Okay, first of all, this is low. I guess I'm the tallest person inside this room. This ain't working for me. Oh. Thanks. Not ready yet. Hold on. Just got to get my notes. 1 second. Good evening, everybody. Roncha Dickerson. Good evening. Good evening. Shout out to everyone who's here tonight. Thank you for being here. Superintendent McCombs, I need you to go find your boxing gloves, because you started off with boxing gloves saying you're fighting for this district, and it feels like you threw them away in your closet. I need you to get them boxing gloves back out, because we're supposed to be fighting together, and you look like you're not fighting for us no more. Y'all remember when she had the boxing gloves out, saying she was fighting for this district? I need them boxing gloves to come back out. If we're not attacking you, then who are we holding accountable? Okay? So I got a couple questions budget-wise. What is covered under improvement services costs budget, $166,000? What is covered under expenditure for education, media service, libraries for $865,000? We don't have librarians no more. Undistributed attendance and social workers, we no longer have attendance officers positions. They were abolished, $170K was sent out for that. What is community service allotment? $240K was sent out for that. I just got questions about this budget, because there's some things here y'all have not said that we need answers to, and this part I want to get answers for that. But I want to go a little deeper. I want to talk about New Jersey CUSAC as it relates to the budget. So, Superintendent, your job was to get us back into compliance for New Jersey CUSAC. And based on your last report, you said that we were 2023-24, this is public documents, y'all. It says that we were at 91%. Okay, so in instruction and programming, we are 65%. We need 80 or higher. Fiscal management, we are 91%. Governance, 100%. Operations, 100%. And personnel, 100%. But I'm gonna go back to fiscal management. How do we get to 91% compliant when you announced that we were a $51 million deficit a little bit ago, and now we're at a bigger deficit now? I got questions about that. And then under the other areas, as particularly instruction and programming, you were supposed to make sure that we were covered under curriculum items and some other areas, and it seems like we can't achieve that because we have so much money going out of the district to Renaissance schools that we can't achieve what we need inside our traditional public schools. So I'm only speaking about the budget right now because I just got questions about NJ CUSAC in the spirit of we only have one job for Camden City Public Schools to get us back compliant under NJ CUSAC, and it hasn't happened, and many of you are not answering the question. Last thing I want to say, I want to talk about who you hired as Dr. Walker. How did you get the role of firing and laying off so many people, and you haven't been in this district that long? I also want to talk about the people who also got riffed, the salaries that were allotted to the people who you brought on board for your cabinet. You have 100 people on your board. I want to know why that happened. That's in your area too. So I just had a few questions that I needed answers to. I'll do the rest on the other.
All right, thank you. Your time is up. Mark Solik, are you here? Mark? What'd you say? Is Mark here? Okay, Sabrina Dormer. And our last speaker will be Alicia Figuera.
Hi, my name is Sabrina Dormer, and I'm a history teacher and senior class advisor at Brim Medical Arts High School. With a loss of nearly 300 employees across the district, my question to you tonight is, how will you as a board and as a district ensure that our students don't lose the vital resources they deserve from their schools? It seems that the only people left in this building is going to be teachers, a principal, and 4 lead educators. But a school is so much more than just its teachers, and our students receive so much more than just an education in this building. With this massive reduction in staff, who will absorb the critical responsibilities our support personnel once had? There must be a plan, a real plan, not just more words, not just vague ideas, and certainly not just more work piled onto the shoulders of already overburdened teachers. The current proposal places one principal in charge of 4 schools. I watched my principal, Ms. Chikweke, work tirelessly from the moment she arrives until long after everybody else in the building is gone. Ooh, it just turned off. Test. Oh, it's back on. Okay. Mr. KK spends all day running around, putting out fires, addressing student and staff issues, and she has to hit a record number of steps every day in just our one small hallway in Brim alone. How can one principal possibly manage the needs of 4 schools? I mean, it's probably like a mile walk in between these schools. I can't imagine that she's going to run around all day, every day, in between these 4 schools. It's just not possible. I don't know Dr. Coe very well, and I have no doubt that she's a highly capable woman, but even the most capable leaders need support to succeed. What supports will be in place to ensure that she is not set up to fail, but to succeed? Our FOCs support our most vulnerable students. Who's going to do that? Our deans ensure that there are consequences for student action so that we can maintain a safe, structured learning environment. Who's going to do that? Who's going to take on those responsibilities? What is the plan? Because without one, it seems, as always, that the burden will fall, as it always seems to do, on teachers. Teachers are already doing too much. The district is already struggling to retain teachers, as you pointed out earlier. If you haven't walked through a school hallway recently, let me just tell you that morale is incredibly low, both with teachers and with students. Teachers may still have our jobs, but without the vital support systems we depend on, next year is going to be impossible, and both we and the students already know that. I'm asking for preparation, for action, and for a plan that values our students and respects the people who serve them every day. We cannot continue to do more with less. Thank you.
Good evening, board members and superintendents. I do apologize. I get a little nervous talking in front of people, so I'm just going to read from my phone. As you all know, I always like to bring positivity to every situation, and I'm disappointed that that's not what I'm doing today. All in all, we still have to work together to make change, and I hope that you all are able to take my comments as constructive and understand that this is not a personal attack, but an action of care for our students and families. I am truly disheartened to see the dismantling of our district schools. My role is to be the voice for our families, and as soon as the post about the cuts and layoffs was shared, my team began speaking with families. We have been having conversations to understand why parents are considering enrolling their children in other schools. While Parents Invisible supports all schools, we deeply respect the right of families to choose what they believe is best for their children above all else. During these conversations, parents have expressed significant concerns regarding the lack of adequate support for their students, especially now with the FOC layoffs. These issues include ongoing problems with bullying, insufficient resources, a lack of parent support, and the feeling of disenfranchisement. Parents have shared their frustrations with leadership. Despite their efforts to voice their concerns, no meaningful action has been taken. Furthermore, undocumented families have expressed feeling unsafe sending their children to school, and it is concerning that nothing has been done to address this, especially given the potential for the district to apply for virtual learning options. Additionally, I believe it is irresponsible to have the same individuals who poorly managed the previous budget now overseeing the new one. The inclusion of a third-party auditor years ago would have been beneficial, and in the current circumstances, it is even more critical. It is time for accountability across the board, including the state. While I understand the limited capabilities of the school board and superintendent, silence and complacency on these critical issues can be just as detrimental as complicity. And to add on from what the FOCs was saying, I too was a child that it really touched me when the one individual talked about the child in crisis, because I had visited crisis quite a few times. And to be very transparent, I had attempted of taking my life as a young teen, and the support of the schools and the support of people like the FOCs is what kept me around and kept me going to school, and eventually led to me getting my master's degree in public administration. So please make sure those supports are in place, because these students need them. Some students don't have anything at home. Like me, I didn't have parents at home. I lived in horrible circumstance, and our kids to these days still deal with those things. So even though you guys are getting rid of the FOCs, I suggest you strongly reconsider appropriating funds for that specific issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I will now turn it over to Superintendent McCombs to address your comments and questions.
Good evening, everyone. So first, again, as I said at the beginning and the top of the presentation, thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. There were a lot of questions that were asked on the budget side as well as in general, given what we are going through as a district. So please allow me to take the time to go back and instead of giving just a quick answer or quick response, to really think about what has happened in this room this evening in a positive way. It's nothing negative about it at all. I understand that everyone is hurting. And so I don't want to go say anything that might appear to be defensive because it's not about me. As many of you have said, it's about our students. And it's still about trying to figure out how to put them first. So it's my hope that your advocacy today, which is being, it's not just here, right? People are taking a look at it. We have individuals from the media who are here as well. Your voices have been heard. Your voices have been amplified. We hear exactly what you're saying. I hear you, and I see you. And so, again, instead of me providing any empty promises, because that would not be fair to anyone at all, please allow us to have the opportunity to discuss what was shared. Again, I just want to make sure it's really clear we were in collaboration through the development of this budget, which was very challenging. We were in collaboration with the county and with the state, and were given specific guidance that we had to right size. The positions that were expressed today, and thank you to every FOC, to every teacher, to every dean, everyone who's here, especially those who lost their positions and those who did not. Thank you for having the courage, not the courage, but the fortitude to come and share today and being vulnerable. We were given the guidance to right size. We went to the table and spent hours and hours and said, hey, listen, this is all we've been able to come up with out of this $91 million shortfall. We'd go back, we'd be sent back to the table. You've got to cut deeper, you've got to cut deeper, you've got to cut deeper. And this is hours and hours and hours over months. And we did everything possible to not have to let all of those cuts weigh on the shoulders of the individuals who have given their time. As you've already said, you said it better than anyone else could say it, and their dedication and their hearts to our young people. And we were told, you have to right size. There is no chance of you getting special funding or emergency aid. We've been down that road before. And we kept going back and kept advocating and kept going back, showing the attendance data. We know the chronic absenteeism rate in our district since before the pandemic and after it. We know that even though we've come down, we've got a long way to go when it comes to making sure our young people have those barriers removed. So we advocated for attendance officers. And I'm going to say that everything that was said that was pertaining to excuse me, please give me a minute, the FOCs, to the deans, the examples Ms. Parr gave, everyone, and I'm just calling her name for just a moment, but everyone, collectively, everything that you said, I agree with 100%. And I understand it is very challenging and very difficult. I'm not a person to give up hope, and so I am still not giving up hope. And it is my hope that the advocacy that is expressed here, with everyone coming together collectively, regardless of what was said or how it was said, not worrying about personal attacks or anything like that, because it doesn't even matter. I'm not important. What's important is that we continue to move forward and thrive as a district, because we are thriving. We have come a long way since the pandemic and the hits that we had to take during the pandemic. And we know that that's because of the human resources that we have. So again, I know there were a lot of questions about what went into selecting individuals, which categories would be ripped. We had to keep digging to preserve teachers in the classroom. We have only 18 teachers, and 18 is too many, but 18 teachers that unfortunately lost their positions, like our teacher from Forest Hill who talked about it today. And we were able to not increase class sizes. At first, we had to increase class sizes. This was a whole process, and that was crazy. And then we were able to find out ways so that we could figure out how to not increase class sizes. And so it was a very challenging process, but we were able to close a $91 million gap. We are still working on a plan in order to share, because some of you shared, I think Ms. Reed is here still, I'm not sure, what's going to happen? Thank you, Ms. Reed. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen to fill the gap created by the incredible employees that we are proud of in the Camden City School District? Both can be true at the same time. The fact that we value you and the fact that unfortunately we were placed in a position where we were told you have to right size and you have to present a balanced budget, just like every other school district in the state of New Jersey. So I am going to stop there and say that we are going to make sure that the plan is very clear for how these critical supports are going to still be able, not in the same way, but to be delivered to our young people. Every question that you asked, we're going to go back. And I'm not, as I said before, going to give a superficial answer, because nobody wants that, and I don't want to say it. I want to be able to make sure that the recommendations that are made to this board are fully vetted, and we can move forward from there. But please, if nothing else, please know that I'm trying to say this, and I'll close it, and that way we can turn it over to the board, that this is one of the most challenging situations to be placed in, right? Because if I'm honest, and I have been honest, I never wanted to leave. I was committed to be here for as long as it took, and I was asked to leave. So it's not, so one of the things that I want to make sure it's clear, I said that if there was an opportunity that opened up, and I didn't have a choice, right? It was either resignation or moving to do something else. I have to do what I need to do, just like everyone else has to make sure they can support their families. And so I understand how difficult it is, and I'm going to leave it there and just say that it has been challenging. These decisions were not made lightly, and we are still working to figure out what we can do to make sure that these rifts and these cuts don't impact our students in negative ways, when we know that the positions will never, ever, the people will never, ever be replaced, because you are the resources that are so critical to our district. And again, and the last thing I'll say, I'll close on this for real this time and turn it over to the board president, is I've said it before, I said it when I spoke to principals, I said it when I spoke to other staff members when we had to deliver this news. It's one thing to look from to be on the outside looking in, but it's another thing to know what it's like to be a child who our sole income was on my mom's paraprofessional salary. And so we know it's difficult and it's challenging, and that's what makes it even that much more difficult for us in this position. So we work around the clock to minimize the people impact. And we went from numbers that were closer to 155, 54, down to 113, which is still too many. And so I just want to, just cut it there and leave it and say, this is painful for all of us. This is not a game. This is not a joke. And it's very difficult to hear, but I understand. In leadership, you got to be accountable and take it. But it's very difficult to hear that there's a thought that somehow the last 7 years that we've worked and toiled, as in addition to all the other years being in the district for 30 years, that it was, for naught, to just be a part of some political game. That's not true. And so I do have to say that. because I have children and they may see this somewhere, and it's not true. And so I have to stand in truth and share with you that the truth is this hurts, and the truth is that this is painful, but the truth is that this hurts more for our young people. And so that's where I want to leave it for right now. I'm going to turn it into the hands. Your questions will be addressed. Your questions will be addressed, but I'm not going to try to do anything superficial, and I'm going to turn it right now into the hands of our board president so that he can see if the board has any comments as well.
So thank you, Superintendent. So I'm going to start off by saying this is definitely a sad time and a sad situation for all our staff. Everybody works hard, and I want to say thank you on behalf of the board for all that you do. You know, I don't think one is more important than the other. The staff, the families that was affected, or our kids, obviously, that will be affected presently and in the long run. Some of the things that the superintendent said, we are in this position and we are in this role. And again, I think everybody that shares, that comes up and expresses, regardless of what's being said. I don't know how we move forward without support staff. I don't know how we move forward without deans, FOCs, any of the staff that we're taking away. You know, we spent time saying we need more supports, and now we're removing supports. I don't know how that actually works. $91 million is $91 million, and to lose that amount of staff and programs, I'm uncertain on how we move forward. And I just want to express that because, again, so again, we won't move forward while people are talking.
I'm going to ask that you follow our board decorum. All right, Gary. All right, thank you.
So again, if people talking while I'm talking, we'll stop. That's fine, we'll stop.
Talk about that money, man. Your cars, your watches.
So again, if the gentleman in the audience won't stop, then I'll stop and we'll stop as a whole. I would like us to continue. So thank you.
I would ask that everyone follow our board policy 1121, following reasonable decorum, so that we can continue to move forward. Thank you.
So again, I mean, if we're going to move forward, again, if we can move forward with respect, thank you. So as I was saying, I don't see how we move forward. I know the superintendent and her team will be sharing a plan, but as we've talked and we've had many conversations, just trying to figure out what we do with the loss of that staff, with the loss of staff, you know, I can't see personally how we fill that void. Many people have mentioned in conversation, you know, I don't hear the board. So just so you know, the board asks a lot of questions and have conversations, and a lot of times that's not during the board meeting. So what I will say is I've heard people, and you don't know what's being asked if you're not present. So it is a valid question. So one thing that I've spent some time doing is listening to staff, and receiving questions and concerns. Some of the questions are questions that we have as a board. Some of the questions are staff. Some of the questions are community members' questions. So some of the questions may be repetitive, so I apologize, but I want to share those with the superintendent so that when you report out, we can also get responses as well to these questions. Why did it take so long for the district to notify people that there were layoffs coming if they already knew they wouldn't have the money? So again, this is the last time that I'm going to speak about the interruption. Respect is important.
right, go ahead, President Anamdi.
Don't give us 2 months to find another job. That's not cool. Come on. Because everybody has 2 months. Everybody wants to answer.
Relax.
What objective criteria were used to determine which positions were eliminated and which staff were retained? Was it a standardized rubric or evaluation framework used to assess employees, and can this be made public, available for review? If the district is losing $51 million in ARP funds, where did the other $40 million come from? Who was involved in the final decision-making process, and what safeguards were in place to prevent bias or personal influence? Were any retained employees related to or closely affiliated with senior district leadership, and how were potential conflicts of interest mitigated? How can you ensure the safety on the Camden High campus with taking so many of the necessary supports? Is the district trying to make all 4 high schools on the Camden High campus into one school? Did any administrators recuse themselves from RIF decisions involving individuals with whom they had personal or familial ties? Was an independent or internal audit conducted to ensure the RIF process was free from favoritism or retaliation? Were any formal concerns or grievances submitted by staff regarding the fairness or integrity of the process, and how were those addressed? Was an equity review conducted to evaluate whether certain demographic or employee groups was disproportionately impacted? What opportunities exist for affected employees to request a formal review of appeal of their RIF status? What steps will the district take to ensure future staffing reductions are applied transparently, equitably, and without the appearance of targeting?
You got it.
So those are my questions, and at this time, I'm gonna pass it over to the next board member. I'll pass it over to Board Member Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. So my questions are also directed towards the superintendent. These are my own personal questions and not necessarily questions that I've gotten from anyone else. I want to know, is it wise to remove mostly black male leadership here on Camden High's campus? And what black male role models do we have to replace them? Is it wise to remove parent support, individuals who reinforce discipline for our students, social emotional learning tools, and resources for our district? How long have you known that the district has been in a $91 million deficit? Why wait until May 1st to issue dismissal of employees just because you can? Did the board have a vote in your decision, or was this presented to us on 3-on-3s on April 17th, and our usefulness as an advisory board wasn't put to use? These are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Jackson. Board Member Camacho.
Good evening, everyone. One thing I would like to say, just to try to echo what Mr. Delgado mentioned earlier, we're an advisory board, and we're here to provide advice. And although, unlike a Board of Education, we don't have or have the authority to make any binding decisions, but we contribute, and we are striving for that. We provide advice and guidance, but we need clear communication and transparency. The challenge is to provide guidance when transparency is sometimes clouded and not clear. So sometimes we get the same information as we're getting the information, as far as tonight. A few things, that I find is the ARP money. It was mentioned earlier tonight that it's a one-time fund. My question would be, well, as a one-time fund, why would you utilize that money for staffing, which has to have sustainability? It was also talked about our lower enrollment. And what I look at, rather than just say we're getting low enrollment, the question I ask myself is, what are we doing to curb that? We talk about how 13 and 14, we had 11,660 students, and now we're down by half. We seem to kind of put the, I don't want to say the blame, but we kind of say it's the charter schools and the Renaissance schools. And when it comes to things like that, I kind of look at it as a business. What are we offering for them to come to our schools and not those schools?
That's a good one. Keep going.
And looking forward, one of the concerns that I have, as tragic as what's going on now is, my question is, where do we go from here? What current actions are we looking, what plans, what I say called stop the bleeding right now, and create sustainable school district that can be effective and financially efficient for our staff, and most importantly, our children, to bring trust back to the Camden City School District. I also look at it as right now, we went from critical to we're on life support. Now the question is, we're going to be here next year. We're going to be here next year. Yeah, I will. I came back to the city, so I will be here. So with that being said, my question is, we can sit and we can use the passion, and I'll tell you right now, I appreciate everyone's passion, whether it be anger, whether it be a motivation, whether it has to be, but it has to be circled and try to get a resolution, because we got to get healthy. Because as long as we continue to be on life support, we're going to be here next year with the same situation, same conversation. So those are questions and concerns that I have as a board member.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Camacho. Board Member Perez.
First of all, I want to thank everyone, and as everyone, or at least a lot of people have said here, this was not taken lightly. I have a great-grandchild who hasn't even started school, who I had these great dreams for a public school, because my best mentor, my life-changing mentor was my first grade teacher who followed me through school. And I'm sure that a lot of teachers out there have done the same thing for our children. So just the mere thought that my great-grandbaby might not have that same opportunity scares the heck out of me. So yes, we need to continue the fight, but we need to fight together, not against each other. We need to educate, especially the new moms who have children, what is the difference between a charter school and our school system. I don't think that there's enough education, and I know that speaking as a bilingual person, I can tell you that when I ask the people that don't speak English, do they know the difference? The answer is no. No. So it's all of our responsibility. Yes, it takes a village, not just half of a village. It takes us all working together. If we start dividing, as Camacho said, next year it could be worse.
Thank you. Thank you, Board Member Perez. Vice President Alvarez.
Thank you, Board President Nelson. Good evening, everyone. I just want to begin by just thank you all for allowing me to sit on this board. This is an honor for me, and I don't take this lightly. My proudest position is being a Camden City resident. Not only that, I raised my 3 beautiful children in Camden City who attended these schools. I want you to know that Camden City, I feel your pain. Camden City, I hear you, I see you. Thank you for everyone who advocated today. Just know that I will continue advocating, and I'm here for you all.
Thank you, Board VP Alvarez. Board Member Galashaw.
I just want to say, many of the questions that you all have asked today are the same questions that I asked when I first heard. So I was getting calls about some of the things that was going on, and I didn't know anything about it. So when it finally came out, most of those things was accurate. So one of the questions I asked were, why weren't we included? Why weren't we informed? And what's the plan going forward? How can we survive? So I spoke with the superintendent as well as her team about my feelings, and also I feel like I didn't come up here to be on the board just to sit up here. So I asked her, can we be included with everything going forth? So I echo everything that everybody is saying here today. I'm a product of the Camden school system, and I want us to continue, and I don't want to see the path that we're going to continue.
Thank you, Board Member Galashaw. Board Member Merricks.
I
want to thank you all for coming. We do hear your concerns, and it's very concerning to us. But my question is, what do we have in place for the retirees that will retire in the next year or two, that's holding maybe a position that 2 or 3 people can have, and us letting go important positions? Could you make it clear to the public of how does that look, and what do we have in place for that, like a incentive or something like that for early retirement, so we can hold on to positions? That's my question.
Thank you, Board Member Merrick's. Board Member Garcia.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to also thank everyone for being here tonight and expressing your concerns. I myself don't like what I hear, and I don't like what I see. I express concerns, I hear you, and I feel you. What do we do about it? The other questions that I have brought to the attention that I was in discussion: how was the process done in making the selection? Were any key administrations, was their salaries cut? How did we get to $91 million deficit shortfall? COVID monies. I also asked the question, were there any retirement packages offered to those that can retire, so that maybe it wouldn't be such a harsh? How long did we know about this budget? Were the unions involved in the decision-making as far as what the decisions were going to be made, who was going to get cut? So, and then the thing is that it was brought to our attention not too long ago as well. So I was also in shock to hear about the 91 million shortfall. I was not too happy about it. I hear your concerns, and it also affects everyone. It's people's livelihoods, there's jobs, their families, it affects everyone. The next question would be, who monitors the budget and advises the board as far as the superintendent? When there's a crisis going on, why would this keep going on and on for a couple years? For 91 shortfall, it couldn't have been just 1 year. It had to be more than 1 year. So how did we get to this point? Now the thing is, how do we correct it, and how do we move forward to have the children first? Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia. That concludes Superintendent for the board.
He's absent. Mr. Hudson's absent today. Thank you, Board President. Thank you to the board for the questions that were asked. I'm going to do my best to answer all of them. I know some of them we've already discussed, but some of them have not been discussed. So I understand wanting to make sure that it's clear where the accountability lies. So I'm going to start with the first question. Why did it take so long for the district to notify people that there were layoffs coming if they already knew they wouldn't have the money? And so I think I tried to share a little bit in my summary to the first set of public comment, the public comment portion, that this wasn't done in a vacuum. It wasn't done with just my executive leadership team and myself, but the county BA, the county executive superintendent. We have 2 highly skilled professionals who are from the Department of Education, who are assigned to oversee and support us in all fiscal matters, as well as interaction with the commissioner and the Department of Education. So the reason that it took so long, honestly, is because we were trying to do everything possible to not have to have layoffs. So as I've said before, we would cut around the edges, cut the programs, cut the vacancies, cut anything that didn't have to do with people impact, take that back and say, and it wasn't enough. And so that's why it took so long, because we were trying to do everything possible to avoid having to lay off. But then we do know that we have to give notice of a certain amount of time, and so then we were up against having to give that notice. So we did wait to the very last hour because we were working, trying to save jobs. And so that is why. That's the honest answer. The second question, why is there a director of middle school sports, a central office position that could be swapped out for an in-school position? So there is no director of middle school sports. There's a specialist who oversees middle school sports. That's not a director level position. One of the things that we looked at is in having to make so many cuts, what could we do to ensure that student engagement, especially in the middle school ages, where we know it's so critical to make sure we have our students in school every day and fully engaged, what could we do? And so that is why the middle school sports program has been a program that we've seen when individuals and students are involved in the sports at the middle school levels, that their attendance is better, that they come to school because they want to be involved in the sports after school, that they learn how to play together as a team. So in trying to figure out, what could we keep that's going to also be able to help us to impact attendance, that is one area, but it's not a director level position, it is a specialist position. What objective criteria were used to determine which positions were eliminated and which staff were retained? We utilize, for the collective bargaining units, whatever is in the agreement, we utilize that to determine who is going to get bumped out when it comes to seniority rights, et cetera. And so the objective criteria to use, that we use, was first making sure that we did everything possible to not impact those supports for students. So teachers, FOCs, deans, climate and culture coordinators, those were the areas that we did not want to touch. So the objective decision-making came with prioritizing those non-personnel areas that would impact students. And that's exactly what we did. In addition to making sure that we were following the collective bargaining agreements. Was a standardized rubric or evaluation framework used to assess employees, and can this be made publicly available to review? So when it comes to the different categories, so there were only a few groups where there was elimination of the whole group. For instance, for FOCs, 100% of FOCs were reduced. When it comes to deans, climate and culture staff, 100% of those individuals were reduced. So it wasn't like picking and choosing over from one, for instance, FOC over another, because the whole team was impacted, and et cetera. And so in those areas, so there wasn't a need for there wasn't a need for a standardized rubric or evaluation framework for those areas, because everyone in the position, unfortunately, had to be eliminated. When it comes to some of the other positions where we were able to keep 2 attendance officers out of the 7 or 8 that we had to look at seniority, because that is a union-affiliated position, so we had to utilize the rules that are in place through the collective bargaining agreement. If the district is losing $51 million in ARP funds, where did the other $40 million come from? That was already discussed in the budget presentation, and so that information is available. I won't be repetitive. Who was involved in I won't be repetitive, but what I'll say is something that may have been said, but I don't know if I underscored it. There's a structural deficit that the district faces year over year, and so that deficit is in the range of about $35 million. The only reason we didn't have to come together like this before, and we had the painful situation of having to close schools before, but we did not lay off staff members. The staff members followed the students to their new district school. This time, again, because of the structural deficit, was not, we had ARP funding so we could sustain positions. We didn't have to cut. We were trying to do whatever possible as a district because we know that the Camden City School District is one of the biggest employers in the city of Camden. So we were trying to do everything possible to make sure that we could hold out and not have to cut people. And so that is, something else that I wanted to make sure I underscored. Who was involved in the final decision-making process and what safeguards were in place to prevent bias or personal influence. And so again, the decisions were not made in a vacuum. If I could have made the decisions that I wanted to, that I kept saying, how are we going to survive without FOCs? How are we going to survive without deans? How are we going to survive without attendance officers? How are we going to do that? These are the questions that were asked consistently, and the answer was given, you have to right size. You have to right size. You have to go back and you have to right size. So this was not something that Again, I am the state district superintendent, but I don't have absolute power. So this is something that was discussed, and we were told consistently, go back and right size. And so so to avoid bias or anything in the process, it wasn't a situation where myself or my executive leadership team had free rein to make the decisions that we thought and we knew were best for our district, for the district. And so I'll leave it there. There was no bias or influence because we were not doing this alone. Were any retained employees related to or closely affiliated with senior district leadership, and how were potential conflicts of interest mitigated? So I'll say again, as I answered the previous question, the answer is no. There were no, there were so many positions and so many people. It wasn't an intentional, we're keeping this person or that person or any, I think this question gets at close affiliation or personal relationship or family relationships. That did not factor into the decision making. We made the decisions that were the best that we could make under the circumstances. How can you ensure the safety on the Camden High campus with taking so many of the necessary supports? That is a very, very good question, and we are going to work with the leadership on that team, not in September, but as soon as we are able to this year, to ensure that we are prepared and that campus is ready to move forward in that direction. And we will be presenting things to the board and to the public at the June meeting, but did not want to be insensitive. It's kind of hard to talk about how we're going to move forward, and I cautioned my staff, and I talked to the board president. I don't think it's sensitive to talk about our path forward until we can make sure that we're treating the people who lost their positions with dignity and respect and not looking as if we're ready to move forward, because it will never be the same without those individuals. So there will be a public presentation on the path forward, but when the time is right and not right now, so close to the time that people have received this terrible news. Is the district trying to make all 4 schools on the Camden High campus into one school? No. Each school on the Camden High campus will still retain its identity, will still retain its magnet, if it's a magnet, and the comprehensive, and they will each retain their own school code. Did any administrators recuse themselves from RIF decisions involving individuals with whom they had personal or familial ties? I think I addressed that already. And the other questions that were above, was an independent or internal audit conducted to ensure the RIF process was free from favoritism or retaliation? The process was done, and I did not state this. Our Labor Council, Mr. Lewis Lessig, who is still here this evening with us, was involved in many of the budget meetings too, most of the budget meetings as well, so that as we were going through and reiterating and coming back to the table, we had counsel at the table to make sure that we weren't doing anything that was outside of either the collective bargaining agreement or the proper procedures or manner in which we have to figure out which positions are cut and which are not. We even had them at the table to, along with Ms. Zimmerman, to make sure that if there were positions that were in code that said, hey, we have to keep those positions, then that's exactly what we were able to do. So we did have guardrails in the process. It didn't make it any easier, but we did have guardrails. Were any formal concerns or grievances submitted by staff regarding the fairness or integrity of the process, and how were those addressed? To date, I am not sure. I'm going to turn this way. Okay, so I was turning to our Chief Talent Officer, Ms. Teresa Reese, to see if there were any complaints that were sent to her. There have been no direct complaints sent to me, and so to date, I haven't seen any of those. Was an equity review conducted to evaluate whether certain demographic or employee groups were disproportionately impacted? Unfortunately, no, because it was about closing that gap. And so it was about positions, it was about dollars. Unfortunately, it was not driven by our need. We know that we're doing everything possible to recruit. We have had hiring bonuses in the past, et cetera, to make sure that we can ensure that our students are seeing themselves reflected in their educators, in their administrators. But that was not a part of this process. It was about closing that very large gap. What opportunities exist for affected employees to request a formal review or appeal of their RIF status? Anyone at any time who has a concern about their RIF status, we share this when we had to deliver the unfortunate news to staff members, to employees from the district working with each RIF individual. We did share that if there were any concerns, there is a mailbox. What is the mailbox?
DTLR Communications.
DTLR Communications. At camden.k12.nj.us, and that information was also given to each impacted individual so that they knew exactly how to elevate their grievances, and so that process is still in place. What steps will the district take to ensure future staffing reductions are applied transparently, equitably, and without the appearance of targeting? We will continue to make sure that we are not having those kinds of decisions made in a vacuum, and making sure that we have the legal individuals to support us, as well as those others, the highly skilled professionals who are in place and employed by the Department of Education. And so that's what we will do moving forward, and that's what we did during this process. The final question from our board president: why do we have a senior director of alternative education when they have one school that is part of Camden High and East Side, and an experienced principal who knows the program? And so in restructuring our RISE Academy and moving it from its current location to Morgan Village Middle School, we know that we already have a senior director of alternative education, first of all, in place. And we know that that person is very helpful in making sure that we're thinking of outside of the box ways to ensure that our students who are most vulnerable, most in danger of not graduating, have the supports that they need in order to make it across that finish line. And so with this new structure, we are going to have the principal, but also the senior director, instead of a lead educator, at that location, in order to make sure that we're able to move things forward. And so the principal will continue to do what they already do, but also, and the senior director is already working on the same campus as the principal for RISE Academy. So it'll just be moving them both over to the new location. And there were a couple of other questions Again, I know this is not going deeply, but for the board member questions, I want to make sure I can get to all of them. Retirees, Ms. Merrick, you asked about whether or not there's an early retirement option, and something that I had shared previously with board members is that we did explore and investigate an early retirement option with our Labor Council involved, and that requires legislation, and that legislation would have to go past the state in order to go through the whole process of being legislated. And we were not in the position at this time, due to the time frame, in order to make that happen. So that was not, we do not, and also to incentivize early retirements, you have to have funds in order to incentivize. And we didn't have the funds to incentivize either. And so that's why we did not explore. We did explore, but we're not able to move forward with that option. Board member, let me go back, I'm sorry, Jackson, is it wise to remove black male role models? Absolutely not. It's not wise to do, and that's why this is not this is not wise. None of this is wise. None of this is wise. It's necessity. It's about the money, but no, it is not wise. As an educator, it's not wise. As a human being, it's not wise. And as a product of this school district, who I was impacted, just like our beautiful young people now, by those people who just stepped up and did what was necessary to fill in the gaps that might not have been there at home. None of this is wise. Not any of it. But I do remember someone tonight, and I don't know who said it, I can't remember, I think it may have been Board Member Perez, who talked about unity and moving forward to make sure that something can be done to set the district up moving forward so that we're not back here again. And unless the structural deficit is dealt with, and this is something that I've talked about it ad nauseum, unless that is dealt with year over year, and we've done a 5-year projection, a preliminary 5-year projection, so we know that this year, when I look down the column, it says we're whole, meaning no deficit. But that's because we had to use $51 million from ARP funds to do that. But we were able to not lay off. We thought we were going to have to lay off last year, but we were able to dodge that bullet. And now we're here. We are whole for next year. It doesn't feel good at all, but there's a zero deficit for the upcoming year. But then when you take a look at the next, we're back to 34 million. We're back to 40 million, et cetera. So unless there is something that is done, whether it's legislatively, whatever needs to happen, it has to take more than, it's not about one person. I'm not talking about me, I'm not talking about any of you. I'm just saying it has to take a more collective approach. And I appreciate Rancha. I appreciate, and I say Rancha, I don't want to say Ms. Dickerson, because I know you as more than that. But I appreciate your reminder to me about the boxing gloves. And we will fight, and we will win. Well, we have been fighting, and it may not look like we're winning, but we should have been wiped out a long time ago, given the plan. And so we are, and I'm just saying, what has to happen is that fight it can't be one person. And I'm not saying it is. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not that. But it has to be strategic, and it has to be based in, not attacks, but based in attacking whoever has the real power. I'll leave it right there. Because it's not, I'm just saying, and that's many levels and many layers. And so I'm gonna stop there, but it's gonna require that unity. How long did the district know? I think Board Member Jackson shared, and as I shared, we elevated this to the State Board of Education last year during the annual report, the mandated annual report to the State Board of Education. And we began working on this in January, when we realized that, we thought we could cut these things and cut all this and cut these services and cut here, everything that was listed on that slide, and still that did not amount up to what was needed. And so since January, but this is not the first time that we said it in a public forum, and it's not the first time it's been said. So please, it's not the first time. I have to say that way because I have to be honest. Like everyone is being honest, and you should be, and transparent with how you're feeling. I have to also be honest with everyone up here and there that this is not a surprise. So let's not say it was a surprise. And let's not say that one person had the control and the ability to be able to turn that around. But that doesn't mean anything, because what matters most is that we figure something out so our young people don't have to be subjected. So our system of education doesn't have to be subjected to this again when the structural deficit that we already know is coming, when it comes. So it's one thing to not, we know it's coming, so something has to be done. Or else it will be here, we will be here, right, or else we will be in this situation again. And to address the rest of the board members really quickly, one-time funds, yeah, we use them because we were directed to use them, Board Member Camacho. We were directed to use them by the county office to fill the $51 million gap. We were directed to use our funds because no one had a solution for how this district would be able to survive. So we did what we were directed to do. Where did we go from here to stop the bleeding? I think I addressed that. 5-year projection, I addressed that. And then when it comes to who monitors the budget, again, I think I addressed that as well. And we talked about the structural deficit. So I know there are other things that we're going to go deeper into. The board president called for a retreat to be able to go into these pieces with the board in a different kind of a setting, to spend time figuring out, hey, if we know these projections moving forward, then what are we going to do about it now? So that they have the confidence, you have the confidence, to be able to make sure that this is not a repeat situation. And so those are the answers that I have right now. Again, at this time, I think what is called for next is for me to turn this over to the board secretary so that we can recess into executive session. Thank you for listening. Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, we have more public comments. My apologies.
Take care of that first.
So there's no, I did tell them.
Thank you. Please forgive us. This is a different, we haven't done it this way in a long time, so we want to make sure we're doing it the right way and that we have not excluded anyone who wanted to speak publicly. I think we did address everyone and we allowed them to be able to come up for public comment, but did we miss anyone?
We're going to allow them to come up to speak about anything else unrelated to the budget.
What does he want to say about the budget? So that's fine. Yes.
So we're going to ask if you want to speak about anything unrelated to sign up again, and we're going to go into executive session during the time that you sign up. We'll come back, and then we'll do the second public comment portion.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Camden City Advisory Board of Education enter into a closed session to consider the following matters: investigations.
Let the public speak, then go into executive.
So we're going to go into public comments now, and then that way we end the meeting in executive session. So thank you for allowing us to course correct. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your flexibility. I'll turn it over now to the board president to lead us through the second public comment portion. Did I say secretary? My apologies. I said the board president. I meant the board secretary.
Whoever signed up and would like to speak for public comment, please address the microphone at this time. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, it's a pretty fiery meeting. So these are, now I'm speaking as an instructor here. My name is Woodrow Womack. I do robotics and engineering. I joined Camden in 1996 and I've seen a lot of stuff. Field trips. Students are supposed to receive lunches during field trips. I've spoken to everybody in food service and they never get it right. So every time I have a field trip, I have to go up because the lunches aren't there and they're like, oh, you're on the schedule. Oh, you're not on the schedule. It's ridiculous. Like, so I'll just bring all these things to you so that you know they exist. And if you ask anybody who runs a field trip, they're going to tell you the same thing about getting lunches for the students during the field trip. So are they valued? I don't know. NJSLA. So now let me talk about testing. So the students took a science test, they took an Algebra 1 test, they took an Algebra 2 test, they took a geometry test, and they took one English test. So in my mind, I'm thinking, we're math and science focused now? Because the curriculum doesn't reflect that. So how do you expect them to do well? Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2, and science. It's weighed heavy. Okay, we got to do better. We got to do better. If my child had a substitute teacher, I would ask them the next day, do you have a substitute teacher today? Because I had a problem with a substitute teacher more than 2 days. Like, that was a problem for me. We've had students here who haven't had a chemistry teacher for 2 years. Like, how can we produce a tech billionaire? You're not. We're not going to do that. They have to have these instructors. We got to do better. Question, since we're going to move the Rise Academy to Morgan Village, so are we going to sell that building now? That old Brim building? I just, you know, we gotta do something about that. At least have a conversation. And then my last piece. All right, she got me.
Got you.
Cowbell. Good afternoon. I want to start by saying something I said before. We're here because of legislation. This was planned. This was planned. The Urban Hope Act, the takeover of the school districts, the Renaissance legislation, the portfolio management plan. This was what is expected. What is happening here means that the plan is working. It's not 100%, but it's almost there. And I think people, when you say, what do we do? Strategic legislation created this situation. So get going. So, and the board, advisory board, you can meet as many times as you want, anytime you want, anywhere you want. You have to meet one time officially, but you can meet anytime in small group committees, or you can go into the community and have meetings. I prepared a report on the bilingual program I was going to share with the superintendent, but she's been busy with the budget. I'll sit down with a bunch of you if you're interested to find out what's happening with the kids that don't speak English, if you really care. Anyway, you know what this is, Madam Superintendent? I would like to speak to you as a teacher. Many teachers tell me administrators are always teachers, no matter what. You could be the commissioner. If he was the teacher, he's still a teacher. This is the trailer at Eastside High School. It's 10 feet by 60 feet. There are kids going to class in this trailer. There are hallways that are wider than this trailer. The hallways here are wider. What they did is they took a hallway, put a roof on it, and called it a classroom. This is what it looks like. It's 10 feet by 60 feet. It's the ratio 1 to 6. The literature says it should be 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. 3 feet wide, 4 feet long. This is not a healthy environment socially, health-wise, instructionally. I've talked to the principal. I had a very wonderful meeting with her, but the kids are still there. So I'm asking you as a teacher, not as a superintendent, look at this. Would you like to teach there? This is good for small meetings, small group children, offices, storage. They've actually started storage. There's storage in here also where the classroom is going on. So I'm asking you, I know the year is almost over, but any day that kids have to put up with this is wrong. So I would appreciate it if you at least look into it. I think that decisions were made that did not really take into account the emotional and the educational needs of these students, and this is it right here. Thank you very much.
Madam Superintendent and Board, the $91 million deficit in Camden City School District is a result of a combination of factors, including long-term structural challenges, declining enrollment intentionally, increased payments to charter Renaissance schools intentionally, the expiration of temporary federal funds, rising fixed costs, and an inadequate state funding formula. We can attribute that to increased per pupils cost in this district that is higher than the state average. The district's $31,818 per pupil cost is 46% higher than the state average of $21,840. To address the deficit, the district is implementing budget cuts and layoffs across various areas as opposed to offering budget reconsolidation and transparency to educators and students, as well as principals and support staff, many of which are APs, lead educators, FOCs, deans, etc. The district proposes one principal at Camden High School, and the dangers that surround around that causes increased workload and burnouts, limited time for each grade school, decreased instructional leadership effectiveness, which leads to less focus on instruction. With divided attention, one principal might have less time to focus on curriculum instruction and teacher development within each grade or school. The district's plan to reduce personal expenses by more than $23.8 million through layoffs and other measures. What measures are they? That the state has not already used as a means to justify its utter failure to the students of the city of Camden. The fact of the matter is there is no short-term or long-term plan. In fact, there's no plan at all. So here's a proposal. Call for a forensic audit to investigate specific concerns about fraud and misuse of funds as authorized by the New Jersey SA 18A 7A-57 for districts meeting certain deficit criteria. Publish the audit findings publicly so that the detailed budget for the upcoming and fiscal year online for full public review and accountability. Host community forums to discuss the deficit, present budget details, and solicit input for stakeholders. Maximize state and federal funding by aggressively pursuing any emergency fund opportunities from the state, highlighting the urgency of the situation and the district's commitment to responsible financial management. Develop high-quality grant proposals for all available state and federal funding opportunities, particularly those focused on supporting high-need districts. Charter Renaissance collaboration. Dialogue and transparency by engaging in open dialogue with charter schools and Renaissance schools to explore potential collaborative initiatives and ensure transparency and funding and resource allocations. That joint planning and coordinating that you guys could do, you could explore opportunities for joint planning and services such as transportation, professional development, and shared programs. I hope you guys will take this into consideration. I do have a little detailed layout for that. Superintendent, I'd be more than willing to sit down with you and talk about it.
So I'll try this again. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with what one Camden enrollment actually does. All right, so if you're not, I'll give you a Cliff's Notes version. In order for students to enroll in our schools or any school in Camden, specifically even Camden Public Schools, parents are forced to use this program, right? And when they're trying to register their child for a school, they're given quote-unquote openings or available seats. So what parents have been seeing for years is that certain sections in different schools are closed entirely. For instance, at Sharp, for instance, going back a couple years ago before the superintendent closed it, they were capped for only 2 classes for 3rd grade, which means any parent who wants to put their kid in Sharp for 3rd grade, that's off the table. Our schools can't grow. That's been going on for a long time at Eastside High. They had like 2 classes for their whole 9th grade class. So when the superintendent says, oh, sorry, she was a board member for Camden Enrollment, and now she's the president of One Camden. This was brought to her attention by building principals and the union president at the time for years. When you don't have students, you don't have money. When you made aware that, yo, this program that you're a part of is cutting our enrollment from growing, you're costing us millions of dollars each year, which makes it completely disingenuous when she comes and complains about having a deficit. She knows how this is happening. I begged her, please do away with Camden enrollment. That has not happened. So please, when you guys go back in the closed session, ask her why she's doing this still, after almost a decade. Ask her why she sold Hatch to KIPP for $1.6 million, which that school is costing this district $14 million a year. So I know I said a lot and I still have some time left. Those are the questions you guys have to ask, because that is how we'll solve this problem. That's how Renaissance schools had their population soar, because our schools were not allowed to grow. She was a part of that. Please don't ignore that. Thank you.
Sir, what was your name for the record?
Dr. Benson.
Got it. Can you state your name for the record before you speak?
Sure. Yeah, Roncha Dickerson again. So everything that's been said I agree with, and I also want to say that this process had no inclusion. Superintendent, you held a press conference and announced everything, but you never, you didn't talk to the community. You never talked to us. You never did anything to include us in this process so we could have been helpful in a decision making. We are the community. We are the decision makers, and that's for the school board too. Like, we weren't included. Y'all feel like y'all didn't get it? We didn't know. We're finding out by email and by text and by whispering on social media. No one talked to the parents. We are the client. We're the client of the district. Our children are your investment, right? Okay, so I do want to talk about Morgan Village. I think that y'all treated Morgan Village like trash can juice. Y'all treated Morgan Village so bad. It was the only 6th to 8th grade school that we had inside this district, and y'all did not pour into Morgan Village. What you're doing right now by pouring SOAR and Pryor, whatever it's called over there, is setting our children up to believe that they are in a prison. We don't need that in our district. We need to focus on building that in every school. If you make a space for children to feel like, I could just go to this school and that's how I'm going to flourish, they'll never get reacclimated into being decent humans and decent students. So if you take Morgan Village away from us, then our students are going to get used to going to a school like that and never get used to being in a school like this or another school that's building them to be better in character. The other thing I want to say is, I just want to talk about Dr. Walker's role. The role, superintendent, the role that Dr. Walker is playing is very evil, because she doesn't know us. She doesn't know our community, so she has a high salary. She gets to rip people at the same time, and have no type of empathy at all. So telling people they got to go from, say, a lead educator back down to the classroom, it's no empathy. It hurts. But you get to sit with a cozy salary of over 6 figures, and you can just rip people. I would prefer for you to be able to have somebody that talk to the community and also talk to our educators in this process to make sure that they got a chance to hear from someone who cared about them, who mentored them, who was there for them. Because our people wanted to retire from this district. Your folks can move on. They can move on tomorrow and say, I found a better job somewhere else, and there will be no ties. But our people suffer here. This is painful. Solutions, the same way that you cut the building principals here, cut your cabinet. We don't need all those people inside that cabinet. Our district is smaller. We got about 17, 16 public schools. We don't need an assistant deputy, assistant this, assistant that, senior this, senior that. We don't need it. If QSAC is the goal, cut your cabinet, because we need people who are really going to focus on it. If we really love these children. Everybody got to get uncomfortable with being cut. and also experience the emotional toll of being able to, for not being able to retire from the job that you love. And last thing, buy buses to take all of us to attend a state board meeting. That will show transparency. If you want to fight back, invite all of us to come with you, and we can all tell the story, so it won't be on one person, it's on all of our backs, since we've been out here fighting as long as you've been fighting.
Hello.
Just state your name for the record.
Yep, my name is Colleen Hall, and I am a teacher over at Davis School. I have a couple of questions, but I also want to mention that Ms. Rancha asked a question last time around, and I'm still waiting for the answer. It's a CUSAC question that she asked, and it wasn't answered. It was the 91%, correct? Yes, I'm still waiting for that one. On top of that, how many specialist positions do we have? And what are the need for the specialist positions? The structural deficit of 35 million, that keeps coming up. How are we tackling that? Because right now it sounds like we don't have a plan, even though we know that it's coming. Then we're sitting back in the same situation that we're in right now. And it's like, well, I warned you because I said it in a meeting for 10 seconds. That really doesn't sound like a plan, so that's my question on that one. Why can't we get an itemized budget online? Who is working on grant proposals? And how many do we have in the pipeline? How much of our budget goes to marketing and advertising our public schools? How can we set up a system where we can guarantee that our questions are being answered? Because I see the time clock, but is there something where we can have the question and then highlight it that it was answered? Because I felt like some of the questions weren't answered. Thank you. That's it.
Good evening. My name is Ayana Bell. I just wanted to say that, so I've been working in Camden City School District for the past 10 years. One of my biggest accomplishments was coming back in my city and serving my city, because that's what my father instilled in us. Not only I, but my two brothers. My maiden name is Dickerson. Ransha is my sister-in-law. My two brothers are also educators here in the city. My family built this city on their back. I loved working at my job. I loved working as the Health and Social Services Coordinator for the last 10 years at Camden Big Picture Learning Academy. I'm sitting here fighting back tears because I'm hurt, and I'm not hurt because of the finances. I'll be fine. I serve a good God, and I know that I'll land on my feet. I'm going to be good, but I'm hurt because I took some days off because my heart was so broken on the 30th when I had to have a meeting with my principal, who was actually my former 10th grade teachers at Creative Arts High School, where I'm alumni at, and now he's my boss, and he had to tell me that he was laying me off. It broke my heart. It broke his heart. He didn't even want to have the meeting. So I came to say, while I was out, my phone was ringing, my phone was going off with students reaching out to me, Ms. Bell, I need to talk to you, I need your help. And I didn't want to come back in this building because my feelings were so hurt. My heart was so broke, I didn't want to come back. But I came back because I know that the kids needed me to come back. And when I came back, she told me, Ms. Bell, my mom is in a hospital, she had a heart attack, as well as I'm graduating and I don't know what I'm going to do. So we called Camden County, we called some different schools for her to get to. That's one story. While I was talking to her, a former student came in and he told me, Ms. Bell, I just graduated. I thought about him and how he connected with the Daylight Foundation with Tracy Hall, who is an FOC in the district. And not only did she help him mentally, she helped him physically graduate from Lincoln University. I thought about a student while I was in the building, and you guys put Camden High School on our side of the building, and the student was being nasty and disrespectful to me. And I called and told Ms. Fussell, who is the dean at Camden High. Ms. Fussell came back 20 minutes knocking on my door with the student. The student apologized to me sincerely. Until this day, me and the student he respects me every step of the way. I think about Ms. Hall, where my own son, my baby that came out of me, the only one, attend Creative Arts High School and runs on the Camden High track team, attends, and he talked to Ms. Hall, and Ms. Hall feeds into him every step of the way as the Health and Social Service Coordinator at Creative Arts High School. I know my time is up, but I will be back on the 20th because I have a lot more to say.
Thank you for your patience, and thank you for the comments that just came forth. Again, as I said, for the first round of comments, I will do my best to answer the questions. If there are questions that I need to dig into or connect with other staff members, I'll be able to do that so I can give you a full response. Every question won't be answered this evening because it's nearly impossible for me to do that in a way that honors your question and honors you by giving you a full response. I'll go through a couple real quick. So Mr. Womack, I think he had to leave with difficulty getting food during field trips. We'll make sure that Senior Director Brown is aware of that. I'm sure she already is and is putting something into place, but we will look into that situation. With regard to the NJSLA and the curriculum that you shared, which was mostly math and science driven and not reflecting the math and science curriculum. Please give me the opportunity to look into that to get a deeper sense and understanding of exactly what would be provided, and we'd hope that you would be able to support us in ensuring that we have that teacher input needed as we develop and continuously develop our curricular areas moving forward. Students without a chemistry teacher for 2 years, we have many hard-to-fill areas, and that is one of the reasons why we put in place our paraprofessional program to help support paraprofessionals to become teachers, but we also work with NJCTL, and so the Division of Talent and Labor Relations under Chief Talent Officer Reese has been trying to find innovative ways so that we can get chemistry teachers, physics teachers, those hard-to-fill areas. Believe it or not, health and PE teachers is coming up as an area that many are not going into right now. Many students are not going into schools of education. And so we will continue to recruit, do what we can in order to make sure those hard-to-fill areas are filled. What is going to happen to the Pride building? So the Pride building will not be sold. Currently, we have our transportation depot at the Pride building, and we will also be able to expand the kitchen areas because we also provide food to more than just the district, but also to other school types in the city. And so we are not selling the Pride building. We need the Pride building, but we need to expand our operational capacity in the Pride building. Mr. Delgado, you reminded us about legislation.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say something because nobody said anything about school-based. I do apologize, Superintendent. It's real quick. I wanted to know if the school-based budget can be relooked. I wanted to know if the school-based youth services budget can be relooked at because the 3 leading ladies that support the school are being laid off and mainly for their benefits. So I wanted to know if their budget can be relooked at so they can still be able to support the students. This year alone, I've only been with Camden City School District for 2 years, but I've been working in education for 11. I had 37 incidents at Eastside High, and Ms. Moore was the only person who supported me. I sent emails, I sent texts. Ms. Moore was the only person who would pick up at 11 p.m. to help me support the students. So I wanted to know if the school-based youth services budget could cover their benefits. So although all of us may be gone, those 3 leading ladies can stay. Sorry, it just was in my spirit to talk.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's why I allowed it, because I know that is not even in your character. So you had something to say. And so thank you. Thank you for what you shared. And we will address that. Thank you, Mr. Delgado. I'm not sure if you're still here. here, but again, I will connect with Mr. Delgado on the bilingual plan. He is right, we were focused on the budget, so we didn't have time to meet. And the modular units at Eastside High School, those units were approved, and so they went through all of the inspection requirements, and they're temporary spaces so that students can have more space than being in the building or on the stage. So again, we have conducted walkthroughs. I've been in them. The county office has been through. The Schools Development Authority has been through. But again, we will work with the team at the school to make sure that those modular units are meeting the needs of our young people. Mr. Frazier, yes, we can connect. Are you willing to share what you read so that I have all the details? Thank you. If you can make sure it gets to one of the staff members. Yes, one principal at Camden High, as I said before, that is something that we have to really work together to focus on, to figure out how to make sure that that is best for all. We don't want the principal or the lead educators there to be burned out at all. Although I have great confidence, I still want to make sure that they have the supports that are needed within our existing power. Calling for, okay, so yes, you'll send me the other pieces. That way, the forensic audit and collaborative planning and all of those pieces that you shared, I just want to make sure I get those in detail. Dr. Benson, if you are still here, I'm not sure. Okay, if Dr. Benson is still here, again, with the Urban Hope Act, Camden, there has to be a common enrollment system, and so we are complying with the Urban Hope Act for that to happen. Any of the issues or situations or concerns that have been elevated and raised by staff, we work with our analytics team, each case by case, to find a solution, and those concerns have gone down. The question about my role on Camden enrollment, when Camden enrollment, which was Camden enrollment, was founded and established with the onset of the Urban Hope Act, in the Camden enrollment charter, if you will, the state district superintendent is the president of Camden enrollment within that system. So that is the case. Even though the executive director, Ms. Mason, runs the organization, the name is still in the documents. And so regardless of how not a part of or not involved I am, that is something that is in the document because of the position that I hold. And so, Ms. Dickerson, Rancha, thank you so much. Inclusion, thank you for the reminder. It's not all just about one person fighting. And, you know, a bus to go to the state board meeting. The next state board meeting is June 4th. And that is when the annual presentation will be given. So again, any voices that are not mine, so people don't think I'm trying to pull one over on the state board as well, because I'm under scrutiny with them. You are welcomed. It's a public meeting, and you're absolutely welcome to go and support Morgan Village Middle School. Okay, we talked about supports there before. Cutting cabinet. The cabinet that I have now exists of the smallest cabinet that's ever been in the history of the district since state intervention. And so we have been cutting that over the past few years. And so there are 5 people that are on the cabinet, but I hear what's being said and what's been said not only by you with regard to that, but others as we're looking at these difficult cuts. So thank you for elevating that. I did just want to put out there that we have been cutting the cabinet, and we will look at other ways to find efficiencies as best we can. Ms. Hall, are you still here? Ms. Hall. Hi, Ms. Hall. Ms. Colleen Hall. The CUSAC question, I'm sorry to Ms. Dickerson as well for not answering it. Please help me, because I'm forgetting a little bit. But CUSAC is the gateway into and out of local control. And as was shared, you need 80%, any district needs 80% in each of the 5 areas in order to have a board that has local control. And so We have come a long way with our CUSAC scores in each of the area. We're at 9% in instruction and program at the beginning of state intervention, and we're moving in the right direction, but we haven't achieved 80 yet. In the other areas, as was indicated, there were times when we were at 90, and still are, 92 in operations, and we were at 95 in governance, and above 80 in fiscal. And unfortunately, when you achieve those bars, and those, because that takes a lot, right? There's visits from the county, filing the paperwork, doing everything that's necessary. It's hard to sustain that, especially when you achieve like the 90s and you achieve like those high areas, and then you're not given local control back in any area, and then it's almost like you have to continue to keep that high bar, which is what we should do and which is what we are doing in many areas, but it becomes difficult to sustain. And so we do not have 80% or above in each of the areas yet, but I can't remember what the heart of the question was, like, why not local control if we did achieve those high areas? That is something that's been shared as well with the state. That question. Ms. Dickerson-Bell, Ms. Ayana, thank you. Thank you for sharing your heart. Thank you for sharing the very real experience that you've had, because that helps us to be able to also understand the deep impact that you and many other of your colleagues who were reduced, their positions, you weren't reduced, but your positions were reduced, how difficult that void is going to be to fill, and it won't ever be filled. So we will definitely look to hear from you again. As you said, you're going to come back and share, but please know that we value and appreciate all that you do as well. I think those were all of the questions for right now.
The undocumented students, I had asked earlier about that.
About what we do as a district for
Virtual learning option, I'm sorry.
the virtual learning option for undocumented students. So that is a question that I brought up with one of my check-ins with the Department of Education. And so for undocumented students, I shared originally when the unfortunate and very, I'll just say the unfortunate executive order came from the President of the United States, and we began to work with M schools, and we began, and you know that, as a district, we put procedures in place so that if ICE came to any of our doorsteps, every single person who was at that front office area knew what to do. When we put those things in place, they are still in place, and one of the questions that I asked was, hey, we have students who are at some of our schools who their families are afraid to send them to school because of ICE. Can we have the ability to provide them with virtual learning? And we were told no. And so you must have a waiver in order to do that, and we did not have that waiver either. Even when, and I'll leave it there, but that is what we were told, and so that's to answer that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. School-based, thank you. Is he still here? He came up to ask the question. Okay, so school-based services, the question was asked, can we look at that budget area again? We looked at that area over and over again because that was one of the last areas that we wanted to pull back on. And so we have been working on Ms. Nafessa Wiggins, who is the project manager, did I get it right? For school-based youth services, and who's doing a great job with leading that work, has been in conversation with DCF as well as with myself and my team in order to figure out what we can do to save the supports, the contracted services that are a part of school-based youth services, because we did not have the funds to match the in-kind contribution. We have it for some of it, but not to retain all of the district staff. We have been in conversation about that, and so I know, thank you for doing your due diligence there, but it's been kind of a layered approach, so please stay tuned for the full, what we're able to share once we finish digging into all of those areas for school-based. And I will hopefully have that relayed to the gentleman who asked the question. And that is all for now. This conversation does not end now, but thank you for staying, those of you who were able to stay to hear the responses. Again, what you have shared is not taken lightly. This is not a joke. This is not a game. And so please know that your words did not fall on the ground, and the board will make sure, I'm sure, that we continue as well to discuss what we've experienced, heard, seen, felt in this meeting today. So thank you for being here and for advocating. And I'm going to turn it over to the board secretary now, who'll lead us into our business office approval. So this is a regular meeting. So this is not the regular meeting. I'm sorry. Is that still on the books? The 20th? Is it on the books now? Oh, it's canceled already. So it should be the 20th or the 25th. We combined. So we had this meeting. It was combined. It's a special meeting. So because we did not have our budget approved by the county until last week, then we advertised and did what we needed to do 4 days in advance, I believe, made the budget available, and then we are up on May 13th. We converted our work session into a special board meeting, so that is where we are today, and combined those meetings. So the next meeting would be the June board meeting. Yeah. And it will, is it on the website? I'm sorry, please forgive me. But is it on the website already as a cancellation?
It'll be on the website tomorrow.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Yep. So we'll move at this time. I'll kick it over to the board secretary for the business office items.
Superintendent, there is an amendment to agenda item 15.10 entitled Renewals of Non-Tenured Staff Serving in Non-Certificated Positions. Superintendent, if you can make the motion to strike Shanique Flack from item 1510 and to add Daniel Murray to item 1510. Superintendent, do you make the motion?
You want me to make the motion?
You're making the motion as the state superintendent.
Motion.
Okay.
Call for a motion.
Okay. And does it carry, superintendent?
Yes.
Perfect. So we are amending agenda item 1510 entitled Renewals of Non-Tenured Staff Serving in Non-Certificated Positions to strike Shanique Flack and to add Daniel Murray. I will now turn it over to superintendent for board agenda approval.
Thank you so much. That's the first time we did that, so that forgive the less than graceful handoff. In accordance with powers vested in the State District Superintendent, according to NJSA 18A 7A35, I hereby approve all May 13th, 2025 board agenda items, including the adoption of the 2025-2026 school year budget. If nothing more, Board Secretary, please call for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
And we'll be convening into executive
closed session.
Yes. Therefore, be it resolved that the Camden City Advisory Board of Education enter into a closed session to consider HIB investigations and personnel, social emotional learning, and staffing actions. The board will now go into closed session for approximately 1 hour, 15 minutes. The board will reconvene into public session at 10 o'clock. Is there a motion to go into closed session? Thank you, Board Member Garcia. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Perez. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We will return at 8:46 to adjourn the public meeting. I'm sorry, 10 p.m.
have to leave my man too, because I got to go. My son, gotta go. He has to clock out at 10 o'clock. Thank you. Come on downstairs.
Thank you so much for your, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you. Garcia. Thank you, Alvarez. All in favor?
Aye.